Good evening, everyone, and we'd like to reconvene the meeting in open session for the purpose of our school committee reorganization tonight.
Dr. Kuska, if I may, I'd like to make a motion to elect Cynthia Listevnik as chair of school committee per our school committee policy BDA.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
You have to call us by name.
Roll call vote. Okay. Amanda?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Oh.
I think I should be last, but okay.
Stacy?
Yes, absolutely.
Catherine?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Minnie?
Yes.
And so moves. Vote of 7. Any other reorganizations tonight?
Congratulations, Cynthia. I would like to nominate Dawn Naborski as our vice chair.
Second.
Oh.
Roll call vote. Amanda?
Yes.
Cynthia?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Stacy?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Minnie?
Yes.
Dawn?
Yes.
Another 7 vote, and congratulations to our new chair and vice chair.
Congratulations, guys.
Thank you. So we have a big agenda tonight. So when we're going to get started, we do not have any minutes tonight. So we're going to move to oral communications. But and after we do that, we are going to move down to personnel, and Dr. Kuska will take that part of it.
Yeah. So point of order. I wanted to jump in here because I'm going to be writing part of the newsletter as we
good
go.
point, Lisa.
And I know the newsletter is way down on the agenda,
It is.
but I wanted to at least go through a couple of items because I still have a lot of work to do on it, and I'm going to be writing it as we go.
Mm-hmm.
So would it be okay to take that now?
Absolutely. That's probably a good idea, because we're not going to be able to approve it if we don't have it finished written.
Okay.
So you have the floor, Steve.
So the main part that I do have written is, well, there's a couple of parts I have written, and I've shared it all with you. I didn't make any, I asked Minnie and Amanda to each write their own bios, so I didn't make any changes to their bios. I let them do that, and I just tweaked things to make them both third person. So I wasn't going to accept any edits on those unless they're things that Minnie or Amanda want. So I'm just putting that part out there. So those are just introductions to our newest members. Dr. Botello, if you could jump in at some point in the meeting and read the blurb that I'm writing about you, that would be great to make sure that I don't get anything wrong.
There's one thing, Lisa, he's been here 14 years.
I knew I was going to mess that up. Okay, I will make that change. And then we did post a contract statement online recently, and I wanted to just updating the public about where we are in negotiations, because obviously we get a lot of questions about this. And I wanted to link to that in our newsletter, and I thought it would make sense just to read the part that we have online so everyone's aware of the language and how it sounds going into the newsletter. I was trying to shorten it a little bit, but that's why I want to take this piece up now. So I'm just going to read it really quick. And then I did suggest some edits and then linking out to it, but I'm not married to the shortening that I did. So you guys can decide. So this is the piece that we would have. So in response to questions from the community about the status of the collective bargaining process with the Holliston Federation of Teachers, the HFT, below is an update of the collective bargaining process. We cannot share specific information from negotiations, but want to update on the process so far and the status of negotiations. We are hopeful to come to an agreement before June 30th, 2021. And again, this is on our school committee homepage on the website. I'm just proposing that we link to it, okay? This spring, the parties have been engaged in mediation to resolve the contract. While the committee cannot share details of the mediation sessions, at our last mediation session on May 5th, 2021, the parties came very close to settling the contract. In fact, the parties reached a tentative agreement on compensation. However, the parties were unable to agree on removing one underutilized item from the contract that would have allowed additional resources to be made available to compensate all educators. By law, and this is an important part, the school committee is required to return to the town any remaining appropriation funds in the fiscal year 2021 budget, including funds that could be used for FY21 salary increases, unless there is a binding contract in place on or before June 30th, 2021. The school committee remains hopeful that an agreement can be reached prior to June 30th, 2021. And then if people click on the link, they'll have some more details. I'm not going to read all of this, but they'll have a lot more detail on the collective bargaining process and the dates and everything that we've been through. But I just think it's important. I don't know how often people go to our website. I'm thinking people do not visit the school committee page of the Holliston webpage. As beautiful as the new website is, I'm pretty sure people aren't visiting the school committee page very often. So I thought it was really important to put it out in our newsletter. So I guess I just wanted some feedback really quickly. I had shortened it a little bit from that.
Mhm.
Do we want the text of the full thing? Do you guys, are you okay with the way I shortened it in the newsletter that you guys are all looking at? I'm not married to it either way. I just want people to, you know, I want to emphasize that we are getting very far into June, and I want to make sure people read that piece. And I'm just mindful of the fact that people are tired. We don't have a lot of bandwidth. I want to communicate effectively, and sometimes less is more. So I was just wanted to get some feedback on the way I wrote it, the way I shortened it, while understanding that I'm still going to have the link in there. So people can click on the link and still go see all the information that we provided. So
I think, Amanda, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say,
Question?
I definitely think you should include that, Lisa. You know, I'm a teacher myself and I've worked without a contract. So I've been in this situation, and I just really think it's important that we make as transparent as possible the importance of the teachers coming back to us with a response to our offer before June 30th so that we can get this settled. And I think it just sort of puts out there from our perspective how ready we are to work on this and to really just get it finalized. So I'm really hopeful that they'll come back to us by June 30th and we'll get this done. So I think it's important they do include it.
thank you. Okay, so does anybody have any feedback on the shortened version versus the longer version? I read the long version. If you're okay with the short version as I have it in the newsletter, my slight preference would be to go with that because it emphasizes what I think we want to emphasize.
I agree. I'm okay with that.
Okay. All right. So I think that's it. I think the rest of the newsletter can wait because I think the rest of the newsletter are the bits that I have to keep writing. So just keep checking in with the Google Doc as you can.
We're going to come back to that pretty, close to the end. So we'll have the subcommittees will be finalized hopefully by then.
Okay, that's it. Thank you. Sorry to bore all the administrators here with that. Sorry for that. Thank you.
So we'll just go back to our agenda and start with communications and school committee individual comment. Does anyone have any comments to make this evening from the school committee? Dawn?
I'll be brief, but I did want to just do a shout out to the Holliston High School for putting on the Performing Arts Extravaganza. I think it was about a week ago, and it really was like Tanglewood on Hollis Street. They had a collection of the band, multiple choruses, the theater, and it was all outside. It was on the football field, and if you were lucky enough to be watching a youth lacrosse game at the same time, you got to hear a lot of it, but it was outstanding. So I hope really that this is going to be one of those things that came out of the pandemic that maybe we'll see again in the future. And I'm sure it was a tremendous amount of work, but they sounded great. And it was a beautiful night for families to enjoy it. Quick shout out for the middle school. The 8th graders will be having a volunteer Volunteer Service Day. They will be shoveling mulch and out there with their rakes and wheelbarrows and picking up trash, I believe, on Tuesday of next week. And I'm sure that Mr. Jordan will be busy tie-dyeing with like 900 kids tomorrow. So a lot of exciting activities. Just one more thing, last weekend, and I think it's still available online to watch, the Misdirected. They were the student-written plays, and those performances, I believe, that you can find off of the Holliston High School website. Thanks.
Does anyone else? Catherine, go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of the parents who came to help with the Miller Field Day in the last couple of days, to the teachers who participated. I think the loudest cheers came when you yourself were carrying wooden spoons with water balloons on them. And thank you to Mr. Kime for coming to play with us today in the water balloon toss. I can't remember exactly if you win, but I remember that you did quite well. So thank you. Oh, you didn't, sorry. But they were, those fourth graders were highly skilled in the art of water balloons. So you had fierce competition. But thank you to everybody who helped. It was a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to doing fifth grade on Monday.
Does anyone else from school committee have public comments? Mrs. Raffi?
So I just wanted to say, because it is the end of the year and what a year it has been. And so I think we are ready for summer for sure. So I, thank you to everyone for the pivoting, repivoting again. Thank you for everyone for not taking summer vacation last year, not taking winter vacation, not taking April vacation. I know what work has been put in to make this year what it was. And I really want to focus on what was positive about it. It's not about loss. It's about what we did, and go us. And I mean us, you, us, not me, us. So for everyone, congratulations. You deserve a really relaxing summer. Mr. Jordan, I have one kiddo leaving you and moving to Ms. Bottomley's school. I'm freaking out a little bit, but thank you, especially to the middle school. Man, these years are interesting, and you were not kidding when you said they come in as babies and go out adults, because I have a 300-pound kiddo who is like a man now. So thank you for all of your efforts, into the teachers and into the retirees. I know we don't have a list of them tonight, but thank you for your service to the town, and enjoy your next chapter.
Yes, and I just wanted to say, along those same lines, that I think it was JFK that talked about the term crisis, and in Chinese is the word danger along with opportunity. And I feel like that really speaks to what we were able to accomplish this year. And I mean that collectively with you, of what you've done over the course of this year. We have, as Stacey said, pivoted and had to be so flexible and resilient in the face of this crisis and the danger that we faced. So thank you all for just an extraordinary year of pivoting and resilience and grit and determination to get us through this year. And I really appreciate all of the hard work that's been behind the scenes and in front. So thank you for that. I have to stay unmuted. I keep forgetting that. Okay, so central office, does I have any comments tonight? Oh, sorry, Lisa, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say thank you too to all the staff, paraprofessionals, teachers, all the administrators here for an absolutely amazing year. Things have so far surpassed, I think, our expectations collectively and individually, and you guys are all rock stars. I don't know how you pulled off what you did, but it was a miracle. I just wanted to give a quick shout out also to a job well done by the Holliston Pride Group. I had a chance to go to a couple of their events this weekend at Aesop's Fable, and then they had a Pride picnic down at Pleasure Point. And it was just, there was representatives at the picnic from the Gay Straight Alliance at the high school. And it was just such a wonderful group of people. And so much joy was there. And, you know, I learned a lot from what people shared there, and was just really excited to be a part of all that energy. So I wanted to give them a quick shout out. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry, Minnie, go ahead.
I wanted to thank everyone who was engaged in moving the high school graduation to afternoon to the morning, especially Susan, I know, and all, and of course, Nicole. I'm so, like, as a parent and of course as school committee members, that was really great. And I also wanted to give a shout out to the parents of the high schoolers who went out of their way and worked so very hard to give them some semblance of normalcy of graduation, and the party that they arranged, the gala that they arranged for the seniors. And it was fabulous. They really enjoyed it. So especially, and with making the senior signs that we could put out on our yard, even the ones who missed, they actually, you know, made sure that each child had a sign. Like my son missed it. Somehow the sign for my son had got missed, but and I was not the only parent, but they went out of their way. So a big shout out to Anne-Marie Dorning. I'm hoping I'm saying the right name right. And of course, Kelly for arranging the gala. So yeah, thank you so much. We have such an amazing community.
Okay, I don't want to miss anybody else. Okay, so central office, Dr. Kuska.
We'll show a lot of the fun things and great things that happened this year. I won't comment, but I did above the, and then we can allow in the waiting room right now. But I wanted to have that conversation first. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit for me.
Right, so we can move personnel up. Am I breaking up? Oh, I don't know why.
Yeah, you're breaking up.
Brand new internet and brand new computer.
I hear you now, Susan, but you've been breaking up a little bit.
What's going on? So before we bring in a new assistant superintendent, we did want to take a minute to recognize Dr. Vitello. This will likely be his last school committee meeting with us, even if we have one next week, because he's very busy getting ready to transition to his new role as superintendent in Sharon. And, you know, I've only worked with him for a short time, but I do want to thank him for helping me transition to Holliston, and I hope he has a successful I know he will have a successful transition to Sharon as well, and I'm sure he'll be very happy to continue to collaborate with us when our new assistant superintendent has questions. They've already met, and you know, I'm grateful for him taking the time to meet with her and go over a lot of the things he's been working on to help transition us to our next person in the role. So that's, you know, it's exciting for Peter, and we're excited for our new assistant superintendent, but we'll not say more about her right now. I'd like to see if anyone else wants to say anything for Peter's last goodbye.
Stacy?
Dr. Vitello, I am really looking forward to the MASC conference coming back to life so that you and I and Cynthia can go to dinner and we can share stories about our Portuguese heritage. I really have enjoyed getting to know you as a school committee member and assistant superintendent. And I had the bittersweet pleasure of being one of your references with your new position. And I spent 45 minutes with one of the women, the school committee members. When I see your name, I think character and just genuine, kind, wonderful human being. And so I'm sad that I'm not going to hear more about your children and their experiences as they grow up too, the baseball games and your daughter's amazing talent. But, you know, like everything, we want people to grow in any business, municipality. You want your people to grow and move on and do the great things that they're meant to do. So I wish you a really successful, challenging, but fun time in Sharon. I wish you all the best, and I thank you for all that you have done here in Holliston.
Thank you. Anyone else? Well, I would, oh, go ahead, Peter. I was just going to say.
No.
I'll just jump in. So Dr. Patello has been with us for 14 years, and I first met him as my children's, actually my daughter's middle school principal. And he knew, I feel like he knew like every single kid, and that was pretty shocking because there's like 700 kids at that school. And I just want to thank you so much for your leadership, for your helping move project-based learning ahead in this community, and for working on Vision of the Graduate. And there's just so many different things that you've worked on in terms of the curriculum. And I appreciate so much what you've done here. And I really wish you the best of luck as you move on to Sharon and new challenges ahead. So thank you.
Thank you.
You have more to come. Dr. Slaney?
Dr. Patello, you weren't going to get away with that. I think I speak for all of us when I say that you have been a great mentor, and the type of mentor who partners with us and gently pushes, sometimes asks me, do you want an answer or do you want me just to listen? So sometimes you mirror us and sometimes you give us feedback. You, from the very beginning this year, I think your leadership has shined when David Jordan and I came up with this crazy idea to bring all the students back and spread them out. And every time we thought the stakes were too high, you said, not yet, let's stay in it, let's keep going. And you've just been a friend, an amazing boss. And I think, you know, when I tell people about you, I say that you should see Dr. Patello at 11:30 at Placentino because you dismiss our preschoolers. I don't know if you guys all know this, but every day he comes to the preschool and he dismisses them. And when he's not there, the kids come up to me and say, where's Dr. Patello? And I'm like, well, what about me? But that's okay. And there's a young student who he has taken the shine to Peter. And every day, Peter holds his hand and walks him out to the car. And I just think it's amazing as a central office administrator, he continues to connect with the building administrators, the teachers, and the students. And we're going to miss you so much.
Mr. Jordan?
I had to say something about our middle school friends. So to kind of add on to Jamie is I'd be remiss if I wouldn't acknowledge the 10 years that Peter served as principal at Adams Middle School, and the staff that love him and are going to miss him, and everything that he brought to that school. He and Peter have taken many of us through many of the toughest points in our lives, personally and professionally. And ushered us through those periods of time with integrity and support. And I know the staff of Adams Middle School, along with the Holliston staff, are gonna miss you dearly. I appreciate everything that you've done for me and the staff of Robert Adams Middle School. Thank you.
Ms. Bottomley?
You're not going to get away without hearing from all of us. So Peter is one of the kindest, most authentic and genuine people that I have worked with. And one of the pieces that I value so much is that he is not judgmental in any way. And no matter what idea I come forward with or the school comes forward with, he is a partner and he listens and he asks thoughtful questions. And to have that in a colleague and an assistant superintendent, and now going to be a superintendent, is an incredible, incredible piece that you don't find very often. And I am so thrilled for the new community that will get to experience Dr. Botello and to see him leading a new community. And I know that he is going to shine and be amazing. And I also know that if I text him in a couple of weeks or a couple of months or a couple of years, it will be the same relationship and he'll be right there to help and support. And I just wish you the best of luck, and you are really valued in this community, and we will miss you so much.
Mr. Keim.
So I can remember sitting with Peter when he was meeting with you for the first time and being elected our new assistant superintendent. And I had faith in him all along. What really impressed me was when Miller and Placentino were looking at replacing what we were doing in reading. He went all in researching early literacy, and he took our literacy committee through, going to different school systems to really look at, what would be the best for Holliston. He was middle school. He wasn't elementary, but he went all in learning about the literacy. And, I can't wait to see, COVID put a little damper on it, but I can't wait to see, how it turns out in the next couple of years. Peter, you've been awesome. Good luck. You're going to do awesome in Sharon.
Kelly? Sorry, Ms. Camp.
I'll keep mine short because you're making me all teary. I don't do great with goodbyes, but Peter's new job is right next door to my own home community. So I am really hoping that with you and Sharon and me right here in Canton, that we are very close together and can still continue our partnership work together, things that we have talked about this year and important pathways that we both have wanted to explore. And I just know that we'll continue to connect on that personal basis as well. So I look forward to still hearing about things that are going on in Sharon, and I'll share with you things that are going on in Holliston, and we'll use all of our resources to make both of our communities really shine. So I'll miss you a lot.
Mr. Boudet.
Yes, Peter and I'll say that Peter and I usually have a slightly different style in how we approach things. One of us is a little more combustible, we'll say, and one of us is a little more measured, and we don't need to say who's who. But I do think that that's something that's worked well for when we partner together on things, just because we do bring a bit different perspective and different strengths. And I think we've appreciated that about each other as our knowledge, while it doesn't always overlap, but I think we've made each other more knowledgeable about different aspects of our individual jobs during that time. But I will say, Peter, again, I'll try to keep it short like Kelly, but I'm not going to cry, is that, we're still going to continue to be friends. As you know, I'm still trying to help fill your business manager's job down in Sharon. And I'll continue to do that till we find one for you. So, best of luck, and I'll see you around the office for now and see you around the links another time. So.
Anyone else? I think we got everybody. Okay. Dr. Kuska, I'm going to turn it back over to you to introduce, or for us to vote, I guess.
Hold on.
Could I add?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to let Peter say something first.
I'm much more comfortable talking about other people than them talking about me, so I'm going to jump in quickly. Again, I am so thankful for the last 14 years here in Holliston. It's been a privilege for sure. I've deeply appreciated the opportunity to work with our families and our educators throughout the system, families who care so deeply about their kids, and those parents and guardians include the members of this committee who are clearly so devoted. I've also loved working with, our students, whether it's our pre-K students or our middle school students or seeing our high school students. They're a great group of kids with personality and kindness and depth that's really unique in the student body. Our talented group of educators, whether it be our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our counselors, our staff throughout the buildings. They've always impressed me in their willingness to try new things and grow and improve. If you support them just a little bit, they'll do most anything to make sure that our kids get the very best education that they can provide, whether it's like digging into integrate technology back when that was on a newer side, or more authentic student learning experiences like PBL and our workshop model, more progressive assessment, supporting students and understanding students with unique social emotional needs, or all of the work they did this year, which went way beyond reasonable limits. So I have great respect for our teachers and our professionals throughout the buildings, and thank you for their support of me as I partner with them. Lastly, I've had the opportunity to develop deep friendships with the administrators who are around the table today, and they've made me better. They've supported me. This group is a one-of-a-kind group. They're as dedicated as you can get, as talented as you get, as caring as you could get. The fact that we shared the same values made our work, so much, more meaningful, while also being able to laugh with one another and enjoy each other's, personally. So, I know I'm not, I'm going to be in touch with these folks forever. So I look forward to that. But again, it's been a great pleasure. 14 years is a long time. I've loved every minute of it. And, I just thank the community and all of you for having me for that time.
Thank you, Dr. Patello. Right now we're going to move on to, oh, I'm sorry. Is there somebody here that wants to speak at public comment? I don't think I closed that out. Susan, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
That's me.
Go right ahead. You can.
It's Susan.
It's you. I'm looking at the phone number and I'm like, who's on that phone number? Okay. All right. Well, we'll move on to.
If we could move and just vote on the appointment of our Superintendent, Joni Menard.
Yes. So I'd like to entertain a motion to vote to appoint Dr. Kuska's recommendation for the new Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction.
Moved by Stacy.
Moved by Stacy. Seconded by Cynthia. All in favor? Is this a roll call vote?
Mm-hmm.
It is. Roll call vote. Mrs. Raffi.
Yes.
Mrs. Gupta.
Yes.
Dr. Savard.
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow.
Yes.
Ms. Koshin.
Yes.
Ms. Naborski.
Yes.
And Mrs. Listevnik, yes. That's unanimous. Dr. Kuska, is she available to come and say hello? Hello, Joni, and congratulations on being appointed to our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
Susan's having some audio trouble, so
I can't.
So Joni, bear with us one moment. But it's nice to see you again. I had an opportunity to sit with Joni yesterday, so I'm excited to see you and here with the group. We welcome you, and we will see you in a couple of weeks for sure.
Sounds great.
I still can't hear Dr. Kuska. Well, Why don't we go around and say hello to
I'm going
Joni?
to try again here. I have a very expensive internet, a very expensive computer, so I don't know what the problem is.
I hear you now, Dr. Kuska.
So I was trying to just read a little bit of Joni's bio. We're very excited to welcome her, and she's held various positions in teaching, curriculum, instruction, K-12 administration for 19 years. She started teaching at middle school in English, science, math, STEM, STEAM. And during her tenure, she was a science department chair as well as team chair. She's been a STEM curriculum instructional coach for Medway Middle School. And she's also been a principal of Petersham Center School K-6 and of Turner Falls High School, Great Falls Middle School 6-12. So we're very excited with her K-12 perspective, helping us forge ahead. And she'll be with us as we develop a new strategic plan as well. So that's great.
Great. Well, welcome, Joni. We got a chance to chat yesterday for a few minutes, and we do look forward to having you in the district. You are starting July 1st. Is that right?
I am.
Great.
Excited to come back.
Does anybody want to go around and say hello to Ms. Menard? Maybe you look like you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I'll take the opportunity. Welcome, Joni. I'm very, very excited to see you. Actually, I loved Susan's way of conducting the interview, and I was actually one of the participants. So, when you were there and asking questions, and I think that Susan made an amazing choice. So, welcome to the district, and I'm very excited to look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much. I remember you from the interview.
I'll go next. Hi, Joni. I'm Amanda. I'm another school committee member, and I just wanted to welcome you and also to tell you that I'm a math teacher in Boston and now Framingham. So I'm really looking forward to your STEM background and hopefully getting to work with you on that. That sounds great. So welcome.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you, Joni. We're going to start moving on to our presentations with our principals. And I'll turn it back over to Dr. Kuska, if I can reach her.
Yes.
There
So
you go. Got you.
next on our list would be our presentations for tonight. And we first are going to start with our principal's COVID year in review. So I think, Jamie, you're starting.
I am starting. Good evening, everyone. And I'm going to try to share my screen. So I wanted to start with this quote because I think it encompassed everything that we've been doing this year. You can't mandate learning, but you can create the conditions in which people are inspired and empowered to learn. And I give all the credit to the educators at Placentino for creating these conditions from the very beginning, way back in March, when we really didn't know what we were doing, to this day. And, the key word that we keep talking about is pivot. And I joke that we kept pivoted, that we're in a full circle. So, when we think about our goals, our first goal was around creating innovative learning opportunities. And at Placentino, and I think that my colleagues would agree, that this year we had to reimagine outside of any realm that we could have thought of what is an innovative learning opportunity. And, technology was utilized at every turn, but it was utilized as a lever for access, but also a vehicle for learning. And from an educator perspective, they created learning experiences that upheld rigor, created accessibility, while creating developmentally appropriate classrooms for our 3-year-olds who were remote to our 2nd graders. Our teachers who were in-person teaching learned how to teach between 2 rooms while utilizing Zoom, iPads, document cameras, while sometimes, in addition to teaching 2 rooms, taught students who were temporarily at home. And our remote teachers they evolved from what we would call the Zoom meeting to creating elementary classrooms where students were engaged in whole group, small group, partner work, independent learning, utilizing breakout rooms, triple screens, multiple devices. Truly amazing. And educators learned multiple platforms, including Zoom, Seesaw, GoGuardian, TeacherMade, all these reading and math applications. And then students, both at home and in person, they became digital learners, not only learners who consumed information, but learners who learned how to create and share ideas and collaborate. And both educators and students throughout this, they adapted, they persevered, and not only did they survive, but they flourished. You always hear me talk about how social emotional learning is the foundation of learning at Placentino, and this year it couldn't be more true. So our educators utilized trauma-informed approaches. They continued to implement our social emotional curriculum. They proactively taught and responded to underdeveloped skills, some that we predicted and others that we didn't. For instance, when we thought about students 6 feet apart, I think we kind of forgot that when they got closer, they now have underdeveloped skills of how to stand next to each other and keep their hands to themselves. So that's something that we've been teaching a lot in the past month at Placentino. And our educators rose to the challenge. And not only did they think about social emotional learning in the curriculum, but they always built relationships, the strongest relationships with our students. And at Placentino and across Holliston, I think the idea that relationships matter shine through. So our teacher rooms became virtual. We had a Zen Den, as you can see, where we had weekly social emotional lessons. Our amazing guidance counselors and school psychologists created this weekly. And then, we reimagined our movement breaks down the middle of our hallway, as you can see over on the left. And sometimes, I walk down the hallway and I see students exit the bathroom and they're hopscotching down the hallway for just a quick movement break that they can do that, or they exit the classroom to be able to reorganize their thinking. Next, around teaching all students. So in the midst of learning how to teach in a pandemic, we implemented a new approach to reading. And our educators just shined in this. Throughout the year, we had professional development around Readers Workshop. They learned how to confer. We dove into phonics and phonological awareness. They learned the structure of a workshop. They learned how to have a mini lesson, all while designing units of study and exploring how to do this in a COVID environment. I think we underestimated the power of a reading table, and our teachers and educators had to think about, how am I going to have small group learning? And together they partnered. They did it through Zoom within their classroom. They did it through breakout rooms when they were remote. Sometimes we had students out in the hallway spread by 6 feet, but they still did it. Another area when we think about teaching all students this year was around social, emotional, and equity. First, as you see down the bottom, when we talk about implicit bias and microaggressions, we partnered throughout the district, and our teachers engaged in a series of trainings learning what is implicit bias, what's my bias, and how does it impact my students, how does it impact my teaching. We learned about microaggressions. In addition, then we transitioned that, or continued that, looking at the 7 forms of bias by Sadler. And, what we looked at was we dove into our new units of study through the curriculum materials of Fontes de Pinel, and we looked at what bias is contained in those books, because there's bias in all books. But then what our educators did was they identified the bias and came up with ways to teach to be able to combat it. And that's now part of our units of study. Over on the left, you see the image of a learning brain and a survival brain. And our teachers worked with our amazing social emotional staff on learning about trauma, what trauma does to our brains. And knowing that a lot of the times our students and sometimes our staff were in survival brain. And then finally in the middle, that's an image of a digital bookshelf. Our literacy specialist, Jenny Mann, I can't say enough about her. She's just been amazing. We had regular digital bookshelves that were shared with our staff. This one was for the Read Across America Day, which was a theme of celebrating a nation of diverse learners. And it featured books so that all students were given windows and mirrors that celebrate diversity and really tell all children that they belong in the world and the world belongs to them. And then finally, around communication, a shout out to our assistant principal, Ms. Lassie. She is amazing and every week would help put together our newsletter and make sure that our families had all the information in addition to Twitter and Instagram. And then finally, our website. And I can't thank Dan McLeod enough in Winnie Carey at Placentino for doing the unthinkable lift of putting together this website so that we can partner with families and have strong communication. So that's Placentino. Does anyone have any questions?
Any questions? Mrs. Raffi?
So this is, Jamie, you don't have to answer it now. And this is something that I want to ask all the administrators because I'm passionate about this. I really want to have a post-mortem, if you will, of, living through this pandemic as educators. They talked about it at the select board meeting the other night, and the chief had actually talked about there's actually some special, it's like AAI something, some acronym for what they do for emergencies, and really like a postmortem, and that's not really the term I wanted to use. But I really think it's important that we look back and that we take the lessons that we've learned and move forward with them. Because there's certainly some things that I think were positive about this year. And I think there were mistakes that were made that we need to learn from. But I just think it's so important. And I think we need to model the way for the students and show them that, yep, we need to look back. So it's really more of are we going to do that? Are you going to get teacher feedback, student feedback? I think that's really important. And that question or comment is really for all of you.
Yeah, I would say that we already we've embedded it throughout the year of thinking about, ooh, this is a new way of doing it. And while we're in a pandemic, this is something we want to carry on. I think that we have a leadership team at Placentino, as does there's some form of that structure at all of our buildings. And we talk about this a lot. We talk about it with our leaders and they talk about it with their colleagues and they bring it back. And we've done a lot of thinking of what are some practices that we might have not done without COVID, and now we are. So for instance, we use Seesaw at Placentino, which is a digital portfolio that wasn't used. It was used sporadically, and now every teacher uses it. So every family, that's part of our communication with our families, that they're able to see what their children are learning in real time and in a digital piece. And I would say that probably if COVID didn't happen, we probably wouldn't have gotten to the point of all of our teachers using it without it. So we'll continue to reflect and think about where we can grow and what lessons learned. There's been lots of lessons, lots of reflection along the way. And what I really love about our educators at Placentino is we've created an atmosphere of vulnerability where mistakes happen. And we celebrate those mistakes because that's part of learning. And if you didn't try, if you avoided the mistake by not trying, we wouldn't get to where we are. So we'll continue to do that. But I appreciate the question.
Are we documenting it though? So, and actually the chief just sent me a message. It's after action report / improvement plan. That sounds better than postmortem.
Well, I don't have that report, Ms. Raffi, but well, we documented it in our meeting notes, but I would be more than happy to look at something like that if you wanted something more formal.
And I'm not throwing more work at you. I'm happy to join you and help you to it. I do think we need to document it, not just talk about it this summer and then sort of let it fall to the wayside. And I'm not suggesting we would do that, but I'm really passionate about this because I think there was a lot of opportunity to fundamentally change education in some ways through the pandemic. So thanks.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. Dr. Kuska, who's up next?
I believe Mr. Kime. Yes.
All right, Mr. Kime, you have the floor.
Sharing my screen. There we go. So, Jamie started off and she, started thanking and the teachers and things, and I want to do the same thing. I want to start by thanking Allie Curley, Michelle Hastings, and Anthony, our IT person, because a lot of this would not have happened if we did not have their direction on a daily basis, troubleshooting with teachers and getting the teachers where they needed to go. Also want to thank the teachers because they came in, didn't know what was going to happen. We had, educators not in their normal role, and they really stepped up to the plate. And, they were teaching with regular teachers. Unified arts teachers were also in classrooms. And so a lot of people stepped up to the plate to make all of this happen this year. Oh, trying to move forward. Hold on one second. There we go. So innovative practices. In the upper left, I've got some boys working on Genius Hour, and actually the whole class is working on Genius Hour. And this is where they're researching something that they have a passion in. These two up front are working on stop motion animation. And so they're actually working together kind of on a script. And so these are two who might not normally work together, but because they had that interest, they were working on this. A lot of our teachers will do Genius Hour. So this was nice to see coming back as something we've done in the past. Now that they're at 3 feet and not 6 feet, they're able to do a little more working together. In the bottom left, there's a student presenting to his remote peers, as well as presenting to his peers in class. So the students really became adept at this new technology. And again, you'd have a monitor where you're seeing the students, they're zooming into the classroom, and then again, presenting to the classroom. They've also got a document camera, so they're sharing their screen with that. The lower right, we utilize every room in the building. This was our art room. Our art room has pillars. So what we did was we put 2 monitors in the classroom so that they were seeing the exact same thing in different parts of the classroom. That way the teacher could walk around and present from the front and the back, but it allowed all students to have access to the information at all times. One of our teachers, one of our 5th grade French immersion teachers, she did online French cooking with the students. So she had a French chef. She was at home. The students were at home. I'm going to do a quick video. It's only 20 seconds, so bear with me.
Je dis qu'il faut reposer la crêpe pour 1 heure. Ce n'est pas obligatoire. D'accord, de faire reposer la pâte. Ok? Ok?
J'ai une tuile, donc une bilique qui est chauffée à 200-210, enfin ça va dépendre après de votre taux de culottage.
So this was a little project they did. They were making crepes at home with a French chef, but also their French teacher guiding them through that. So we did a lot of innovative things. And so I know I shared just a couple, but the whole year was innovative. And just from, you know, how we set up our building 6 feet apart, how teachers were engaging with students between 2 classrooms. They did such a phenomenal job this year. So social emotional health, again, this was something that we all did. We had a lot more walkers this year. We teamed up with Safe Routes to School, and you can see this was just something that was done at the end of the year, but I had more walkers in the morning than I have in years past. And I definitely had, you know, a lot more walkers in the afternoon. I don't know if that was because they wanted to avoid, you know, the car lot we had in the afternoon, the jam, and they met their parents somewhere else. But it was good to see students walking during the day. In the middle, our PTO offered an espresso cart for the teachers. And the line was backed up all morning. They were there for 2 hours, and they did this for every school. We did it at different times, but we did it before the teachers came in and then ran it a little bit. And if the teachers had class, Erica Linares, my assistant principal, and we went around to the classrooms, told them to go down and get their espresso and go back to the classroom. So shout out to the PTO with that. We had our dog come into school, one of our safety animals, and they've come in years past. And because we were outside and we did this after the April 5th shift, and you should have seen the students lining up to see the dog. I mean, I think pets do that for us. They or any type of animal, but especially the animals that come in. In the bottom right, all year long, the kids couldn't share balls at recess. But after April 5th, we opened it up a little bit. They could then play Foursquare, and just the lines to play, you know, Foursquare in the afternoon. Being able to play outside together. When we opened up the play structure a little bit later, you know, you could see, you know, the students just there. It didn't seem so stiff outside. You know, they really did seem to enjoy that. The bottom left is just a certificate that Safe Routes, they've been working with us for a couple of years. Again, they put in the crosswalk on Woodland Street that is close to Miller. Thanks to Tina Hine and I think she's the chair of the select board right now. But thanks to her, we got that put in, and we've been working with Safe Routes. Teaching all students. Our teachers, after April 5th, our model changed, because in 5th grade, the teachers would half the day Zoom with the students, so in a different room or at home. And then for half the day, they would have the other half of the kids live. But when we went back full in, we didn't have remote anymore, but we did have remote. So the students needed to Zoom into the classroom for part of the day. So if a pair of teachers had some students who were still remote, they would be on one side Zooming in half the day, and then the other teacher would get them. This is Maureen Hagan. She's got kids on her monitor. She's got kids in front of her. She is presenting up on her whiteboard. And this was not anything that people were used to when we started. And really took people out of their comfort zones, but they did it. And, you know, it may not be something they ever want to go back to. And personally, I really don't want to go back to it either. But they did a phenomenal job. In the lower left, we started to get back to normal. We had Inventor Mentor come in and work with each grade. But at that, we were able to bring all classrooms outside, but we were able to attempt to bring in our virtual students as well. And he also made packets for all the students who were remote. And so the parents could come in and pick up the packets so that, you know, students at home might be able to do the activities as well. In the bottom right, you're gonna see a green iPad. That is actually a student, and the students all year have dressed this student up with a shirt and is on kind of a mobile cart. And this student goes with all his classmates to wherever he goes. And this is just a small group sessions that's going on, and the kids will walk him back to class with them. And so this is a student who, for medical reasons, could not come in, but at the same time, he is with us every day. And it's fun how he's been included. And again, towards the end of the year, our classes were able to do some walks to our 5th grade classes, walk down to some parks, and they actually did have some of the remote kids join them on those virtual. You know, this was something we wanted to allow our 5th graders because this is the last time our 5th graders are going to be at the building. And as Jamie said, communication, thanks to, again, in our building, it was Allie Curley. This was Dan working in conjunction with all the buildings, but Allie Curley really set up the Miller website. Our hope in the end, we're kind of in the beta phase. You know, it's not completely set up, but that's across the district. This is going to be the one-stop shopping where, you know, parents need something from Miller. They're going to be able to go to the website and find what they're going to need to. You know, we send out an email blast. It's going to be up on this website. Parents are going to be able to find it there. As Jamie talked about, Cheryl Lassie, Erica Linares, she put out our weekly communication every week. She also, if you go to the website, you'll see some of our social media links to Twitter, but also Instagram, that we try and keep parents up to date with everything that we're doing. It's been you know, Stacy, you said it, you know, we want to take in those things that we kind of do want to see what's worked and what hasn't worked. I think there are a lot of positives that happened this year. You know, I look at our teachers and I look at their planning, and they plan together much more than they ever did before. They counted on each other. They looked to each other to, you know, what are we going to keep doing? They relied on our technology people. They relied on each other. They did a phenomenal job this year, and kudos to the teachers. So that's our presentation at Miller. I will stop sharing and take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Keim. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Keim or comments? I have one. Do the students change the clothing on the one student on the monitor?
I know I've seen a red sock shirt and a Bruin shirt, okay. And I think I've seen a hat on the as well. So monitor. Yes, they do.
I love how they've just embraced him as we're just going to move him from place to place.
They have a blast with it.
That's great. All right, no other questions? Well, thank you, Mr. Keim.
Moving on to the middle school.
Thank you, everybody. Good evening. All right, I think similar to how Mr. Keim started and ended, you know, this was, to say it was a challenging year is to not give it credit. To say our teachers put their heart and soul into this school year is not giving them credit as well. This was a monumental task that I and others could not have asked our teachers to do if it was not a pandemic and a crisis that we were in. And with that, our staff rose to the occasion, gave everything they had to this, and it resulted in something that I am and our teachers are incredibly proud of, as far as what we've been able to accomplish this school year, and feel very good about the future of the students of Robert Adams Middle School and Holliston. So, you may have seen this on the marquee. I speak to it, but I talk about personal, local, global. This came very much into central focus of this school year as we think about curriculum. Doing a kind of a research-based overarching why or thematic approach to curriculum design is proven to have lasting impact as students try to form understandings and schema in their mind around, what is the purpose of middle school and what is the purpose of this thing that I'm doing, and especially as we are kind of working through curriculum in this kind of different type of environment that we taught in. It's important that the lessons and activities that we put together are incredibly engaging and linked to a deeper meaning and purpose and understanding that they're taking away from that. So to be innovative, one would argue that this entire year was innovative. Everything that we put together and created was innovative. But we did provide a lot of front-loaded professional development around teaching in a pandemic, hybrid or remote learning, cultural proficiency, social justice, and our bias work. Additionally, it's taking a true backwards design approach, meaning that we take where are we trying to end? What are we hoping that students are going to be able to know and be able to do by the end of this school year? And then how do we know that they did it? And that we set as kind of our major approach for this school year as we reworked our curriculum maps and created what I would argue are kind of mini scope and sequences or mini maps to kind of think about curriculum as we go. Additionally, you're going to hear the train go by my house. I live in Needham, and the train weaves right through Needham. We were lucky enough to have a variety of different experiences for our students. One thing that was very exciting that came out of this that I as Stacy asked about as far as what do we take from this is the ability to speak with a diverse group of authors. We were lucky enough to invite Alan Gratz, New York Times bestseller, book wrote Refugee, along with several bestsellers in authors for both YA, but then also some nonfiction as well, and providing many opportunities for our students to Zoom with national scholars, researchers, people on the global level, and being able to provide that experience. I think it was Dr. Slaney who spoke about windows, mirrors, and I'll add sliding glass doors in there. By not only are we looking to, when we think about windows, looking to be able to see, or mirrors, be able to see ourselves in some of the books that we're reading or experiences that we're having, but also, the text that we're a part of, the experiences that we have, or the different people that we're able to bring into the school virtually, we're able to provide more window opportunities, ways to look further and reflect in on a variety of different cultures and experiences and things, so that as students start to reflect and form their own understandings of what their future could possibly be, it opens up doors for them. So it opens up this idea of like this sliding glass door, and being able to kind of see that there's a possibility for me to formulate this different type of thing that maybe I haven't been exposed to by living in Holliston. Social emotional health has been a central purpose or function of this school year as we carefully and very strategically think about what we're offering students and how this experience, not only how we are, the things that we're doing to students, but also how they're perceiving and receiving this pandemic. In this school year, we entirely revised our wellness survey. This is based off of research and conversations that we had with some local universities around kind of using more national standardized survey questions and information to get at more targeted interventions. This included using Panorama as a resource for survey design in our Metro West Health Survey, and along with some other research-based surveys as well. This kind of redesign of our wellness survey that we typically have given for the last, I would say, last 8 years, we give twice a year, covers social emotional well-being, cultural proficiency, stress-based information, wellness and health, and also just generalized workload, things that might impact some of these triggers. But the survey was worded in a way that we could then create different interventions based off of that. Some of that, what came out of that is something we're calling SO, aptly termed the idea of like SO and sewing, our social emotional wellness intervention groups that we were able to create this school year, which ran throughout the school year for 6-week intervention blocks based on targeted groups or to intervention around social emotional learning that we were able to run. And those were run by our social emotional BCBA behaviorist and our adjustment counselor. Additionally, we provided tier 1, so more generalized, where all students receive this. Our second step curriculum, this is a social emotional learning curriculum that we had purchased as a school. And we were able to provide, they being second step, did a fantastic job of creating COVID pandemic-based social emotional learning curriculum and experiences for students that we kind of delivered to those students. Additionally, kind of as we look at our data and how we're collecting that, we ran mood check. Again, that's our relationship with the Wellesley College of Women and Dr. Gladstone. And that's been especially important in this school year as we were able to centralize and look at because we gave mood check back in last spring, and we were able to kind of compare that as a benchmark to this school year's information and kind of glean some direction that we wanted to take things in. And I had some very meaningful conversations with Dr. Gladstone on some different interventions and suggestions that she had for us. Additionally, we added and expanded our GSA, our Gender Sexuality Alliance, and increased our experiences within Beautiful Mind, and also added a social justice club as well to kind of broaden and meet the diverse needs of our students here at the middle school. Additionally, every Monday, there was a nice, calming, almost NPR quality voice that read the morning announcements. Those were our Monday Mindfulness, read by Gretchen Powers, who is our adjustment counselor. Additionally, she and along with several of our clinicians provided professional development to our teachers on trauma-informed practices, stress and anxiety, and then also on just the stresses of returning from a pandemic and what that means. Dr. Slaney spoke to even the task of maintaining 6 feet and then returning close together impacts regulation skills. We similarly have had a kind of a bump in regulation challenges at the middle school as of late as well, to just kind of moving a little bit closer together. Thinking about teaching all students, similar to our SO groups, which are our social emotional well-being, we also ran intervention groups. These were 6-week blocks of time based off of a variety of data points on kind of some struggling learners, academically struggling learners. And in those 6-week blocks of time, they reviewed executive functioning skills, self-management, worked on reading, and then based off of different markers of success, were either stayed in the group, moved out of the group, or took 6 weeks off, and then were brought back into the group, but had an intervention plan for those students. along with having an incredibly innovative hybrid model, I'd have to say. I'm very impressed with what we were able to do at the pre-K through 3 level, but also just across the district. The level and the amount of synchronous and in-person instruction that we were able to provide, I think, it far exceeds that of what most schools in the state of Massachusetts were able to offer. So that's something of great pride that I think the citizens of Holliston can carry. Additionally, you're kind of seeing a lot of chalk art, chalk math we were doing. That was an opportunity for our teacher to both be able to socially distance our students, but also be able to check their work, and then they could correct it and kind of just mark up the space and be able to freely move around. When you're in the classroom trying to do mathematic work, you're fixed to your location in this setting when we were earlier in the year. But by being outside and marking up on the ground, our teachers were able to kind of move around and really check through student work. We, as I kind of said earlier, some modifications to our scope and sequence so that we made sure that we knew what we were aiming to do. You're also seeing just some also kind of meeting the needs of our remote students. We had science lab, science kits that went home with our remote students that they were able to still access kind of more lab-based or lab-ish based experiences for those students. Let's see. And lastly, kind of on our communication side, everything was new for our families, for our students, for our teachers, for the administrators. And not only was it new, it seemed to change on a weekly, monthly basis, on a regular basis. So just as a teacher, as a parent, as a student was getting just enough comfortable with something, something would change. So communication became a central purpose or central function of our ability to be successful this school year. Whether it would be the Rams news, which was sent out by Mrs. Beatty every 2 weeks, we tried to kind of really have that be our centralized focus location for the things that were important, so that centralized were kind of our understandings that parents needed to know. Additionally, kind of communicating things through Twitter, through Instagram, but also creating different components within our school around communication. So we created a culture group of staff and students. We worked to provide student-based Rams playlists in the morning during morning announcements that students used our website to kind of access. Teachers were trained on language shifts. So trauma-informed language and how to talk to students in this type of environment, how to speak with families in this environment to be able to kind of accomplish the goals that we're looking for. We had Wednesday shout outs. These are staff and student positives that we noticed. Along with kind of COVID connections, we did big puzzles. We have the tie-dye that's coming up tomorrow, and along with our community service day that is next week on Tuesday. Similarly, just kind of communication with our staff and maintaining that relationship. You don't take into account how valuable face-to-face, in-person experiences. So we really highlighted kind of our focused on our Monday memos and our communications to our staff, and try not to take for granted some of the things we're missing from the face-to-face. But all of that being said, for a year I'm looking to kind of close the book on. It has been an incredible year of learning and an incredible testament to the skills of our educators, to the administrative staff we have in Holliston, the resiliency of our students, and the patience and flexibility of our parents. So thank you, everybody. And that's the middle school. And I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. Actually, Mr. Jordan, we should take questions, but then I wanted to ask you if we could move up so that you don't have to stay throughout the full length of the meeting, that there was some handbook changes that you need to make, or, I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. If depending on what Dr. Kuska would like to do, if that's okay, that's fine. I'm happy to answer questions concerning the handbook.
Yeah, well, we can do the questions about what you had to say first, but I just wanted to, before I forget, I just wanted to ask. Does anybody have any questions? Mrs. Raffi.
Not a question. I just wanted to echo Mr. Jordan's comments about the author, because I happen to have a family member who got to participate with that. And my understanding from that grade is that more students than typically actually read Mr. Gratz's books. And I just think, you know, it's cool that I think the kids some children have been able to see their own parents, you know, sitting on author talks. And I just found it interesting because I do happen to have boys that to see him so engaged in an author in those books, I just thought that was awesome. So that will be great to see for future generations. I just wanted to echo that.
And Alan Gratz is also is an entertaining person to listen to. And I think even our students can, as we talk about windows, can see themselves in like, man, that guy's cool. Like maybe it's something I want to do. And then they start picking up books and reading that type of books and start aspiring as far as their own writing. So it was good.
Other questions for Mr. Jordan? Comments? I was wondering if you thought of, when you were earlier on in the year, you and Jess Vita were doing a lot of videos where you had those in your newsletters. And I'm just wondering, you know, what you thought was that you got the most feedback from in terms of the engagement with communication. So was it on the videos? Was it just from the weekly or bi-weekly newsletters? Or, because I feel like there was a lot more people that were attending a lot of the sessions that you had going on because they were on Zoom.
Yeah. No, I think that there's some value to having Zoom as far as meetings and being able to set that up, that it does increase our attendance. I mean, even within Cynthia and Stacy, as far as within our PTO and at the middle school, as far as attendance there, as far as being up there, for sure. Also, I think, you know, our biggest positive feedback that we receive around communication is just like, is consistent and as we could be, and as centralized as things could be. So not having too many having the information spread across multiple emails at different locations, is having kind of like the common same name. It's going to be here. I'm going to get it every 2 weeks and it's going to have everything I need, has been kind of consistent positive feedback that we've received. Both Mrs. Beatty and I really are looking forward to getting back to our videos that we've typically done. Kind of more podcast level of things. I think, admittedly, I think we hit an overwhelming year ourselves, and we're basically just doing the things that we could to survive. But are looking forward to kind of picking those up, more 5-minute, 7-minute snippets of like really important things to discuss, or education for families, and are looking forward to kind of picking up that more ed-based podcasting again.
Great, thank you. So Dr. Kuska, is this a time for us to review over that handbook, or do you want to move on first? And
I think, why don't we see if we can have Nicole finish, if that's all right? And
okay,
then we'll
sure. Okay.
All righty. Let me share my screen. Here we go. So it's always a little easier for me when I go forth, because I'm able to just say, I agree with everything the 3 principals said. And there were just so many similarities across the schools as far as the innovation, the focus on equity and anti-bias work, the just how amazing this year was. And so they have spoken to a lot of the different pieces that are very similar at the high school. So I'll try to really focus on kind of high school specific examples just to highlight some of the things we did this year. But of course, I need to start off as well by saying we would not have been able to pull this year off without the unbelievably dedicated and amazing faculty that we have throughout the building. without our students who partnered with us to step up in ways that they weren't anticipating, and without our families who also had to step up in ways they were not anticipating. And so I cannot say enough about what a community effort this was across the, just sort of across the district, across the high school, but to see the educators every step of the way, every change, be able to roll with it, be able to ask really important questions, but just keep coming back day after day, continuing to adjust their practices, continuing to work with students and with families. And it really has been pretty amazing to see throughout the year. I mean, I'm already a little biased because I live in Holliston, but it just completely reaffirmed for me what an amazingly supportive community this is and how everyone was just able to pull together throughout the year. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the high school, and I do want to start by saying I think our emoji for the year was this. Not sure, I don't know. And I can't tell you the number of times at a faculty meeting a question came up and not sure was the answer. And so it's been really interesting because I think that it has brought everybody a little closer together this year because there have been so many new questions. And the answers have been really interesting to see as they evolve and the feedback from students and the feedback from educators along the way. So in terms of innovative learning opportunities, I think it was Mr. Jordan who said that this whole year could be summed up as innovation. And so I'll just focus on a few different pieces. For the high school, this was our first year where we had 2 students graduate with our computer science endorsement. So that's really exciting for us. It was something that we presented about a year and a half ago to have a computer science endorsement. And I am thrilled to say that we have 28 students currently enrolled this year, with 2 of our students just graduating. And considering that it's really our first full year in a pandemic, we're pretty proud of that. We also had a huge focus on equity and diversity throughout the curriculum. The English department really focused on diversifying their texts. So this started last summer, and they really looked at bringing in a whole number of different readings. So I just provided a few examples up there. The Hate You Give. For grade 10, The Bluest Eye. For grade 11, Between the World and Me, and a number of other examples that were new texts that they introduced. And I reached out to the English department just to get their thoughts on how it went this year. And one of the teachers had emailed me back and just said, it was amazing to see the impact that these new texts had on the learning and the conversations throughout the classes and throughout the department. And that so many students commented about how much they learned about the country and how much they learned about how the country's still struggling with race issues. Our English teachers did a great job of tying the current text that they're using into context and into more of a historical perspective. And so they really made a concerted effort to broaden the curriculum and the instructional practices to engage in sometimes difficult conversations, but really needed conversations. This happened in our social studies department as well, a number of activities on social justice, and our fine and performing arts as well, infusing social justice into a number of projects and lessons and curriculum. And those conversations really took place throughout the school. I would be remiss if I didn't mention the technology this year. What the school has been able to do in just one short year as far as increasing people's capacity with technology is pretty remarkable. Whether it was their own personal laptop or screens or setup so that they could best serve these students who were in remote environments and also simultaneously in person, or whether it was the math department coming up with a number of different ways to creatively engage students in the math work that they were doing, again, in a remote environment as well as in person. And all of this really ties into our work of Vision of a Graduate, which I'll talk about in a minute, but there was a renewed focus on alternative forms of assessment as well. So what are different ways that we can really gauge what students are learning throughout the classes and how they're partnering with us in terms of the curriculum as well. In terms of, there we go. In terms of our social and emotional health, again, I can't say enough about how vulnerable everyone was willing to be this year in engaging in conversations that, we may not have had as many of the difficult conversations in the past. And this year was a real focus on equity and anti-bias work. Karen Archibald, one of our assistant principals, has really taken the lead for the high school and in other aspects of the district as well, in leading us through some lessons on stereotypes and microaggressions and implicit bias. And that has been eye-opening for a lot of educators and for students, and has really helped us to further the conversation. The picture or the image that's in the top right, and hopefully you can see that, I'm not sure. So where it says say their name. So this was a mural that was done by two of our students who really wanted to have an impact. They had presented an idea to do a mural to represent Black Lives Matter. And they came forward with a sketch, and I think it was probably the fastest mural that has gone up in the school. And it's one of my favorite in the school. It's an incredibly powerful mural. It's in one of our main stairwells, and students travel by it every single day. And it has really allowed us to have some very important conversations as a school. And then, as you heard Mr. Jordan talk about Mood Check and the partnership we have with Wellesley Center for Women, and some of the work that we've been doing over the last several years with Mood Check, that was really instrumental as well in terms of helping us assess what supports were needed for individual students and then just collectively as a school. So for Teaching All Students, I had an opportunity to walk around the building yesterday, walk around the high school with Miss Menard and Dr. Kuska. And Dr. Kuska had to keep reminding me that I only had a certain amount of time because she was trying to have Miss Menard go around to all 4 of the schools in the district. But I was just so excited to talk about the high school and so excited to talk about all of the different projects that have been happening throughout the year, to talk about Vision of a Graduate, to introduce her to our amazing faculty. And every time we saw somebody, I was able to say, oh, and this is a project that they worked on with students, and this is something that they did during this last year. And, I know there's never enough time to talk about all of the fantastic projects that are happening. But it was a nice opportunity to just remind us of how much we've been able to accomplish in this last year. So I just provided a few different examples of some of the work that's happened in this last year, both remote and in person. And there's 2 different links up here. I'm not going to go to them, but you can access them from our website. So one is the service learning presentation that was done at school committee a couple of months ago. I'm losing track of exactly which meeting, but within the last few months. And it was the service learning presentation. It was Caitlin Mills' class, and just so many different examples of community engagement and ways that students found a connection between what they were learning in school with some really authentic learning outside of the building. I also have a link to Art Saves Lives. I cannot say enough about what our Fine and Performing Arts department has been able to accomplish this year. They had an incredibly difficult challenge, in particular for performing arts, in that they really, for most of the year, were not able to sing indoors. And for a good portion of the year, were not able to play instruments indoors. And they carried on every day outside of the school, regardless of the weather, and they worked incredibly hard to still provide experiences for students so that they could continue to improve in their craft. And so there were a number of songs that were shared out throughout the year to the faculty and also to the community. This is just a screenshot in the middle of one of the group performances. And again, all virtual, everybody in their own Zoom sessions. To be able to pull that off is no easy feat. A couple examples of artwork behind that from Art Saves Lives, and then you heard the reference to the extravaganza from the other night in the bottom right-hand corner, but the excitement that the students had with the ability to perform in person. So as much as the Zoom performances were wonderful and still provided an opportunity for students, the fact that they were able to come together in person, outdoors, with parents and guardians in attendance, and be able to showcase their musical skills, their performance skills, their theater skills, it's something they had actually been talking about doing for a number of years. And they were sort of forced to in the pandemic in a really nice way, and they were able to put on this performance that they'd been thinking about doing for a long, long time. And again, this ties back to the increase in technology and being able to just maneuver in ways that they probably themselves didn't think they were capable of before this, and they were able to really step up and shine in so many different ways. And all of this really ties into our vision of a graduate. So our vision of a graduate, I'm so proud of the work that we have done. It took about 1.5 years to craft the vision of a graduate with a lot of feedback and sort of large groups and back and forth and a lot of revisions. And we were just about to officially roll it out to the community in March. And then the pandemic came upon us. So although you may not have heard a lot about the vision of a graduate over the last 1.5 years, and we are getting ready to relaunch, rebrand, and communicate out about that vision when the school year starts again in the fall, even though we may not have been so focused on it sort of publicly or so focused on it in terms of some of the messaging around it, everything we've been doing this year really has tied into that vision of a graduate. So, I mean, global citizen, I can't think of a better example of how something happening in the world just has affected all citizens across different countries. Locally, you heard Mr. Jordan talk about, the impact of personal, local, global, and that really ties into the vision of a graduate as well. When we were focused on balanced life, part of that is being able to advocate for yourself. Part of it is being able to manage your time and develop those skills. And that was needed in this environment. That was needed in the remote environment, in the in-person environment, certainly in the hybrid environment. And that was really interesting to see how that tied into that balanced life. So in some ways, the level of independence that was required this year and the level of advocacy from students really was sort of a jumping off point for the vision of a graduate. And so you'll hear more about that for many years to come, but certainly in the fall when we relaunch it. But it really helped us in terms of crafting some of the different experiences that students had throughout the year. And then the last piece here around communication, I chose these two pictures because I feel like these really juxtapose so much of what we did this year. So on the one hand, we have our fantastic school nurses who are with us this year, who I cannot speak highly enough of the nursing team throughout the entire district. Their ability to triage and manage ever-changing protocols and communicate out effectively and partner with us to help ensure everyone's health and safety throughout the school and the district. It was really remarkable what they were able to do. So, sort of half of what we were doing this year was really communication around COVID protocols and, everything that comes along with it. And then the other half of that was the instructional practices and the events for the school and trying to make sure that students still felt like they had really positive, great learning experiences. And, it sort of all culminates with the picture of graduation. And so I couldn't resist putting that up there. And it also showcases our new website. But really, our communication fell into those two categories this year around COVID needs and also remembering the life of our students and the life of the school. And so at graduation, I spoke to the seniors, and I said that I asked them to think of this last year as a gift, and that typically when you think of the pandemic, you may not think of that as a gift or a positive thing, but to think of it as an opportunity to really reevaluate what is important, really reevaluate prioritizing relationships. And I feel like that's something that we really focused on this year throughout the district as well, certainly at the high school. We've been having a lot of conversations about this unbelievable opportunity that we all have to restart in ways that we think are the most beneficial for students and for the community. So we had this unique opportunity to sort of press pause this year. And I don't mean that nothing happened, because clearly you've heard a lot of examples of what's happened at the high school and throughout the district. But we had this really interesting opportunity to press pause on what we sort of knew school to be, and this sort of traditionally what has happened over the last several years. And when we restart in the fall, we have a unique opportunity that I do not want to squander to restart in a way that is thoughtful and productive, and to make changes that we might have been wanting to make for so long, but we day to day, and you're sort of going through everything and you don't have that opportunity. I had a teacher come to me the other day and ask about planning an event for next year. And it's an event we've done for many, many years. And the teacher said, can I reimagine this? And I said, I hope so, because I don't think we should just sort of copy and paste pre-pandemic to post, pandemic. I think every single step of the way, every single event, every single decision, every single protocol, every single policy, we should be looking at through the lens of, is this what we want to still be doing moving forward? What do we want to leave behind? What did we learn during this pandemic that was so valuable that we want to carry forward? So I've sort of warned the faculty that I'm going to somewhat obnoxiously be asking, are you sure? Why? Should we keep doing that? Have you thought about it in a different way? Is this the thoughtful decision-making we want to make moving forward? Because we have this unbelievable opportunity to do that at every step. And I have seen the growth of the school over the last year, the growth of the faculty, and it's remarkable. And I know I'm trying to be brief tonight, so I really could go on for hours about the faculty and about the experiences the students have had, but I'm going to stop there. I'm going to be mindful of time, and I will stop sharing my screen, but I am happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Mrs. Raffi?
I am on fire tonight, huh? Nicole, it really struck me at what you just said about pausing, because I'm sitting here and I really I would prefer to focus on positivity than the negativity, right? Because there were positives that come out. And I'm sitting here listening to us all, and yes, amazing things happened this year. But truth is, people were mean, people were anxious, people were not nice to each other, adults, children, and so I understand that in times of uncertainty, and boy, was this something uncertain and something that we've never experienced before in our lifetimes. None of us, with the exception of my 101-year-old grandmother, has never lived through a pandemic, right? I hope that in next year, at the start of the school year, as you say, Nicole, because I associate this with you, we really need to remember the intent of why we're doing some things. And I think we lost some of that this year. And I hope that people this summer really do, all of us, the entire community, really pause, take a breather, go to the beach, go to the mountains, do whatever, and really come back next year with the understanding that we're all in this together and we're all trying to do the right thing. So it struck me so hard as you just said that. Thank you for your presentation. It was really good.
Anyone else have other comments or questions for Ms. Bonham? I echo those sentiments of Ms. Raffi, and I thank you all for giving us a snap. I know it's just a snapshot, but it's a really big snapshot of all the challenges over the past year that we've overcome in so many different ways, and the relationships that we're building and the new relationships that we're building as well with our new school committee and our new central office staff. And I thank you for your presentations.
All right, so
sorry, even though I have very expensive internet, it's still problematic. So I was on my phone for volume. You know that, Cynthia, you said you wanted to potentially move David Jordan's handbook. So would you like to move that before Kelly Camp's presentation?
I was trying to not hold up everybody to stay here, but at the same time, I don't want to be pushing Ms. Camp off either, so.
Completely up to you.
Okay. So Mr. Jordan, do you want to go over that just quickly?
What is there a way that you wanted to do this? I think it was shared. Do we want to open it for questions? Do you want me to just go through, share the screen and go through the exact changes?
Yeah, if you don't mind just going over, because I mean, it was a whole document and I went through the whole document, but there's really only a couple of changes that you made. So I just wanted to, if anybody had any questions about those specific changes that we could look them over.
Yes, so let me pull up very quickly. Okay. Yeah, so these are mostly pretty minor, non-substantive. Happy to discuss, pause on any of it. Most of it just kind of modernizing different things. One of them is as simple as just changing the name to Student Handbook versus Student Parent Handbook. As far as modernizing the language, sometimes you say Parent Guardian or Student Family Handbook. That was just the first suggested change, is just changing it to Student Handbook. And if I scroll down, I will come across the next change. So in red is the proposed change. So if a student needs to be dismissed prior to the end of the school day, a parent or guardian should complete the online dismissal change form. This is different from a note, writing like a handwritten note. This is feedback from parents as far as changing this. The student will be called out of class by the main office at requested time for dismissal. This is versus kind of like the extra legwork, the extra headache of like a pass that we give to the student, and the parent having to remember to write some type of handwritten note. We'll go through this kind of arbitrary process, kind of if a parent needed to like come in and write something on a piece of paper, this is just kind of addressing that and doing it more online. Then also families receive a bright arrow alert. So if instead of receiving a phone call, if there are a lot of absences or issues, or we're noting that individuals absent, it would typically have been a phone call. This is kind of leveraging our bright arrow system to do it automated. This is per term. This is a nuanced change. It's per term. It's per 45 days. It's a very similar process, but just a nuanced change as far as the number of tardies or absences that we have.
David, I had a quick question about the bright arrow alert. Will there be a way for parents to opt out? I know many, probably even most parents, have access to email and text during the workday, but not all. So will there be a way for parents to opt out and get a direct call as opposed to an email or text, if that's not possible because of the type of job they have?
I can text, or I can speak with Dan McLeod, our tech director, and we can talk about it. This is more of my understanding is at least the district process that we're using for notifying families on absences, but I don't know the specifics as far as the other schools. Okay. So I would just want to kind of run it through him and Dr. Kuska as far as what we would be doing there. But it is meant to kind of just automatically do it, and there isn't like, we don't necessarily have a default process to then go through it through all the individuals that are absent and pick out who. So I just need to work with him to figure out if that's an option that we have.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. I think, David, you're right. I worry that because it's an automated procedure and it happens automatically, you'd have to manually figure out who was not on the list and have people call. I don't know. I don't know what, but let's see if there's any other option.
let's move through. So restroom use. In a normal year, in a typical year, the process that we've had in place is students need to get permission from a staff member to use a pass and sign out. They sign out on a sign out sheet that we have by the door in the classroom that they're exiting out of. That's been the practice that we've had in place for as long as I've been here. Prior to that, we had little yellow passes that teachers had, and they wrote passes that the students would have. And so like that was at the board was a step of improvement. And then this is just kind of more electronic. And this would be in a normal year, we would have a Chromebook at the door that they would use and just enter it in. This better helps us be able to identify like who are out in our halls. So if they're, for whatever reason, somebody's throwing toilet paper in the bathroom or clogged something, or is potentially someplace they're not to be able to be, we can kind of identify during time frames who's in there and not. Additionally, if we unfortunately run into situations where students are skipping or haven't shown up for classes, we're able to identify who was there and not. And then also if we have reoccurring themes, like every day Joni goes out of math class, and they've been doing that for the entire year, or every class the student goes to the bathroom or goes on a walk or whatever, and we don't realize it because as an individual teacher I'm processing 5 minutes, but he's doing it every single class, is impacting kind of their instructional day. So this is just a good way for us to, and by putting it right into our spreadsheet or captioning it right in our spreadsheet, we're better able to kind of have accurate and trackable data. Okay, so that. That might be, so this is just adding in Rams News. I think we just said email blasts. We're saying specifically Rams News is just adding in this. We don't use Backpack Express. We use Rams News as our communication tool.
I think that was it.
That might be, I think you're right. And then it kind of goes into the standard stuff.
Right.
So.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or comments about the handbook, Mr. Jordan? I can't see everybody right now.
So Sin, do you want a motion to approve the updates to the Rams handbook as recommended by the principal, but should we put in a clause there about the communication for the absences of notifying the parents? I don't know how you want to word that, but.
I don't know that we need to do that. I just want to flag it as something for them to consider. Okay. You may have grandparents or there really may be people with jobs that don't have text and email capability, but would appreciate a call. If maybe it's a way that they can opt out of it or reach out to you, but just something to consider. I don't know that we have to change the handbook on it though.
Okay, so I will go ahead and make a motion to approve the Rams handbook as the changes as presented this evening by Mr. Jordan.
Second.
Seconded by Ms. Bigelow. All in favor? Ms. Raffi?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Dr. Savard?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
And Ms. Listevnik, yes. Thank you, Mr. Jordan, for that. And now I guess we're moving on to Kelly Camp. Ms. Camp, you have a presentation as well.
I do, and mine is brief. And I have to say that I need to up my game on my slide presentation because theirs was also beautiful and colorful, and I did not get the message about the colored dots. And so I'm going to apologize right up front because mine is pretty straightforward and not quite as entertaining. So what I wanted to focus on tonight was, as some of you may know, we have the tiered focus monitoring an audit that had come in late 2019. And then we were projected to be updating our information and providing evidence on how we were developing in those areas through 2020 or 2020. And then the pandemic came along and we were not really able to follow through with that work. So by the fall of 2020, we had received word back that now we were back online, and anything that we were cited on, we needed to start addressing and submitting evidence in order to show how we were going to bring those criterion into compliance. So the thing that I had wanted to focus on tonight was it's called SE 56, which is special education item criterion number 56, which focused on program evaluation. And when during our TFM, they had indicated that we needed to be able to show evidence and show consistency in how we are evaluating our special education programs to make sure that we were really monitoring for progress and being able to identify where our areas of need were and where our areas of strength were. And so we started work on that in the fall of 2020, in particular through developing a learning walk protocol, which is what I'm going to share with you tonight, just in terms of the things that we had seen. But in addition, we had to submit IEPs and evaluations and outside consultations and just a variety of evidence 3 times actually over the course of from the fall of 2020 until actually Peter and I just submitted our last evidence on June 15th, which was Tuesday, and all challenges have been resolved. And so, you know, very happy about that. So, but what I wanted to talk about was what we had learned through the 55 learning walks that we did between January and June across the 4 schools. We had developed a learning walk team that included the 5 student service administrators, the 3 school psychologists, the 2 BCBAs, and then myself as the student services director. In part, those folks were chosen because of their flexibility of schedule in terms of not having, you know, direct teaching responsibilities, but also because several of these staff work in a more broad capacity and so can go into any of our 4 schools and really take a look at trends that can be carried across the district and help us determine where are our areas of strength and where are our areas of need. So that's what I want to talk about just a little bit. So one of the things that we were looking for with our learning walk protocol was really, again, that trends not only in a classroom or within a school, but across the district and trying to identify where we need to align services and supports. And we saw some really, really great things across the district. And in many cases, it appeared in our walkthroughs from January to June that it was very much business as usual in terms of the kind of learning that was going on, the kind of very clear use of learning strategies that teachers were using, in addition to all of those great new technological things that we had found really support student learning. And we saw teachers, you know, teaching between 2 classrooms with a teacher standing in the middle between the doorway, and yet the students on both sides were still very engaged. So we saw a lot of great things. We were looking specifically for some evidence in classrooms, classroom routines that support all students, so that whether you are a student with typical learning abilities or whether you are a student who had some really significant challenges, those routines really help you to feel comfortable in the classroom, know what's coming next, and just be able to be your best learner under comfortable conditions. So we were looking for that specifically. We specifically looked for student engagement and to make sure that some of our more challenged learners who might tend to be a little less engaged were really being pulled into that lesson through a variety of strategies, whether it was activity-based learning, whether it was working with a partner, or using some cool technology that they really enjoyed learning about. We saw lots of evidence of that. We were trying to ensure that staff were very knowledgeable of students' IEPs and their behavior support plans. We did determine that through our protocol that we had developed and used, we need to do some tweaking there because oftentimes it's just hard to tell and match a student's IEP to what's going on in the classroom and really trying to know what is the student's particular learning challenge and what are their accommodations or the strategies that really help them and connect that to the lesson going on. So for next year, we need to tweak that a little bit and really dig a little deeper to figure out how we're going to determine whether that is a really strong area for us. But in the general overall, we found that staff were very knowledgeable, whether we talked to teachers or whether we talked to paraprofessionals. They were very knowledgeable about the students' IEPs and behavior support plans there in the classroom. We saw lots of multi-level instruction, though I would like to see more. That is an area you'll see in my next slide, an area of need that I really would like to talk with staff about. We saw lots of cooperative learning and activity-based instruction. One of the key things that we looked for was students with special needs not being stigmatized by the kind of support that they received. So we did not want to see, if at all possible, adults sitting right next to a student, or that the kind of accommodation that a student was receiving was very blatant and explicit for all students to recognize, wow, this student might have a disability. We wanted it to be that more subtle kind of approach with a real focus on building student independence so that they can feel good about the work that they're doing because they now have the independence in order to access those strategies that help them to access the curriculum. And then also the last thing we were really looking for was that assignments that were given to students were purposeful and really maintained that rigor. Regardless of a student's ability, we wanted to make sure that rigor was there and they were really a part of that class and they were being able to step away from that class at the end of the class really with a full understanding of the concepts that had been taught at their instructional levels. So some real strong rigor in that area. And I'm just pleased to see all the great things that we saw through those 55 learning walks that we performed. So some things that we were just indicating in terms of areas of need. Again, ensuring effective use of staff and resources that really support student independence and being able to prompt them to use strategies that they have learned. When students become more independent, they really become more comfortable and confident in their participation in the classroom. So they're much more willing to engage. They have a much stronger role within the class, and all of that just really helps to create a stronger student moving forward. So those are some of the things that we're looking for. We're looking to apply those kind of strategies so that students who may be hesitant because of some of the learning challenges that they have, you know, how do we apply strategies to help them feel comfortable and engaging? And then that increased use of multi-level instruction and also flexible response methods. So for a student who might have a real, maybe a writing disability, right? Are they able to present their information in a different way that helps them to show, yes, I have a writing disability, but I know this information if you'll allow me to present what I know in a different way. So we're looking for that kind of flexibility and response. One of the things that we had heard as we moved through the school year in that hybrid mode, we heard a lot from from parents who had indicated to us that there was a strong need for executive function skill building within their students, because once you take away the structure of school, whether it be the structure of having a paraprofessional there to support you, whether it's the structure of the routine that you're familiar with in the classroom, or whether it's the structure of the lesson itself that you know what's going to happen next. For some students, when we took that away and they were doing their learning at home, we found that they were less successful. So one of the areas also that I didn't link here, but one of the areas of need is really around that, those executive function skills and really helping students to be more independent in their ability to access those kind of strategies. The last thing that I just want to touch on is that in addition to all the other things that we had to submit for SC 56, that particular area of our tiered focus monitoring, I had to identify a number of outside resources that we bring in order to support not only building our own students' capacity, but building capacity within our staff so that they are better able to support those students without necessarily having experts come in and do that. So this is just a quick list of some of the folks that we have coming in on a routine basis to support our students because it might be identified in their IEP, but also a lot of these consultations are occurring with our staff in regard to those students, thereby building our staff skills in order to be able to be more independent in their support of students. So that was my overall picture for that particular area. And like I said, this will continue on into the next several years. We have identified this protocol. It's here to stay. We're going to continue with our learning walks. We routinely share what we find with CPAC at our CPAC meetings and look for them to kind of bring information back to us. It's more of a dialogue about where are our challenge areas and how can we explore those challenge areas and work together as both, staff and administrators and parents through CPAC to try and build capacity across all three of those stakeholder groups to come together and create something that's really very strong for our students.
This is great, Kelly. Thank you. I have a question for you about the tiered focus monitoring. Were there any deficits in terms of like policies or anything that they thought that we needed to take a second look at, or that you noticed in the most recent?
So there was, now I can't, JKAA, I forget what that number was. And we worked on that earlier in the school year. Do you remember that?
Yes.
You and I, Cynthia, and we had to submit that early on, but I think that was actually one of the first things that was resolved at the start of the school year. The second criterion that we had to look at, or another criterion, was around, we had a handful of teacher licensure challenges that turned out to not really be so much licensure challenges as it was, we did not have an updated license on file. So that was easily managed. And then another piece was around our work with CPAC. And I know, and working closely with Lisa, as well as with the CPAC board members, I think that we have built a nice partnership in that area. And there's an awful lot of dialogue going back and forth with parents bringing things to light that they have concerns about. We are working on some kind of a survey or process that parents can more easily convey to us their concerns and their challenge areas, and then CPAC can work in concert with myself and the student service administrators in order to address those kind of things. So a shout out to CPAC for their strong work this year. It's been a real pleasure working with that group too.
Great, thank you. Does anybody have any comments or questions for Ms. Camp? Lisa.
Yeah, I just wanted to second that. I know I've said it before in one of these meetings, but I'm just so impressed, Kelly, with the way that you have worked with CPAC and been really open, and you've really listened to concerns. And I think that it's just been a great partnership this year, and I'm really looking forward to that going forward. I can't believe how much work went into this. Was it 55 walking tours? What was the number?
55 special ed walkthroughs
a lot.
Staff. And most of the time we pair up because we're really looking to also to build inter-rater reliability so that when I see something, I know that another person who's looking at the same thing will see it in the same light relative to these are strengths and these are needs. And so we're trying to build our own capacity as administrators in terms of identifying what we see as areas of strength and need, and then being able to carry that forward to work on. But
yeah,
it's been great.
So impressed with all the staff that I've crossed paths with, and just really grateful for your hard work this year. I know this was especially hard year for everyone, and for you as well, and for all of the staff that you work with. So
yes, thank you. We have great special education staff. They're very impressive, and I've enjoyed getting to know them better.
Yeah, we really do. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Raffi?
Kelly, thank you. It was interesting to see that you had listed up there for resources about the sign language. That's the first time I've actually seen it mentioned sort of in the district. So I'm wondering, thinking maybe it could be a joint PTO, CPAC, student services discussion to do either some training on ASL or maybe a club. But I do think, I personally would love to learn to sign and help. And I too just wanted to congratulate you. You're coming on your 1-year anniversary of being the director for the district, and what a year to be your first year. And I wanted to thank you for all of the work that you did with the PTO for the pandemic parenting. And I hope that we can continue to see, some more topics next school year. So thank you for that.
And that's one of the areas where Zoom has really been helpful, right? Because if people could not find childcare or be able to get out of their house to go somewhere in order to see a presentation, they were able to find a quiet space in their home and be able to watch and participate. So that's an area that I hope that we continue to maintain Zoom opportunities in.
I agree. And having those webinars that you could just go back to, they're recorded. And even if you couldn't watch it live, you could watch a recording of it. And I think those, especially those pandemic parenting webinars were fantastic. I think really supportive and helpful for parents as they went through this year. So thank you.
Thanks. They did a great job. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Dr. Savard? Sorry, Dr. Savard. Dr. Kuska?
I would like to see if we could allow our administrators to exit. And I'm sorry, Keith, I do need you for a few more minutes, but I think the other administrators are, if you're okay, I would like to let them exit for tonight.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much for your great presentation. You did a nice job.
Thank you.
Okay, my screen is much more manageable now. 15 boxes is tough. So I have on mine next is, let's make sure I've gone through this because we've moved around so much. Reports from subcommittees. Communications, we're going to come back to you because we're still talking about the newsletter, or is now, yeah, we're going to come back. Okay. Policy, we have not scheduled a meeting for that, but we'll need to. Anything for budget? Back to you again, Lisa. Oh, you're muted.
God, shouldn't we all?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yes, we scheduled a meeting with the FinCom for Monday, and that's just, kind of a check-in, close out the year with them. We had many FinCom meetings, the budget subcommittee and the FinCom liaisons over the course of the last year, including all summer. And this is just kind of a check-in, closeout, hopefully, of where we're at.
Okay. And superintendent's evaluation. For my part, I think, Donna and I need to get together. So if you still have more to provide on your evaluation, there's a Google form. If you need me to resend it to you, I can resend it. And we're going to try to meet next week to try to go over that and make sure that we have something for Dr. Kuska before June 30th. So we have that in place. But we don't have a scheduled meeting yet. Okay. All right. Old business. Do we have a COVID update at this point, Dr. Kuska?
Just a couple of COVID-related things. I think I'll start them here. We had talked about our concerns around our kindergarten numbers for this year, and I had said that Keith and I and Dr. Slaney would be meeting to discuss that further because we had just we did a late registration due to COVID, right? So with that number increased the way it is, we felt that we were going to try to do anything we could to hire another kindergarten teacher. Okay. We're looking at potentially as a one-time situation, just because in a normal year, we could maybe do some switching from another grade level, but because of COVID, I would not recommend that this year. I just think I don't want to look into, let's say, first grade, having a first grade teacher and putting them in the kindergarten, because, we haven't, the numbers would be okay, but I also look at those first grades as having had gone through, part of the year, much of the year in kindergarten, and now full year in first grade dealing with COVID issues, so I don't want to do that this year. So because of that, we're looking to use grant funds. We haven't identified the actual grant yet, if that is our goal. It might be ESSER money, but we know that we're going to be able to solve this as a one-time COVID-related situation for next year. So that will be, we will put that out tomorrow as an anticipated position for next year. And then once we formally identify the grant that we'll be using, we will let you know how we funded that as well. And, that opens up a little bit of a possibility related to the next item on the list. But before we go to that, I did want to have Keith tell us about we talked about the transportation and how that relates to COVID and our concerns about next year. So I thought this would be a time for him to mention that as well.
Okay. Keith?
Okay, yes. I met with the principals this week, and we did a real deep dive into the transportation situation. As I discussed with you 2 weeks ago, the challenge of transportation in trying to determine kind of how the new alignment of opening of schools works is a little tough when seemingly 90% of our parents are driving. I know it's not that number, but there are days when it feels like that, especially a rainy day. So we did have a long discussion, talked about what we expected to see based on our experiences, both here in Holliston and for some principals in other towns. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what our recommendation is for changing the school start times. And obviously I'll take questions on it as well. So right now, what we recommend is to leave Miller as it is, no change to Miller's time, so 7:30 to 1:53, to move Adams 5 minutes sooner to 8:05 to 2:28. The rationale behind that is because we are having problems getting buses up to the high school in time. When the high school, middle school was the first run, we were able to drop off children earlier and then move our way down to the middle school. That's not going to be possible because the high school is a longer day. So we can't have the high school drop off first, because then we'd be at the exact same time for Adams. So by moving Adams 5 minutes earlier, we're also taking advantage of something else we observed this year with regards to some driver downtime between the Miller run and the Adams run. So what we would like to propose, again, is to move Adams 5 minutes earlier to help us make sure we get students to the high school on time. The other piece of that, by moving Adams 5 minutes earlier, it's giving us a little more time between the Adams and high school afternoon runs. As we know, middle school children will not necessarily race to a bus. They are social beings. So what the hope there is that we will have all 15 buses at the high school at dismissal time, so we can roll out of the high school sooner, which will help us with the Placentino time. We talked long and hard about the Placentino time, and we really don't see any safe alternative to Placentino other than moving it 5 minutes later to 8:55 to 3:20. As much as we didn't want to extend necessarily the school day, I can reflect on, and I'll just stop sharing right now. I can reflect on when I started here, back when gas lights were in the streets. The dismissal time at Placentino was 3:25. The high school start time was 7:15 as well, so I don't want to have any stroke out on that. But so we're still confident that we will be able to get the children home at a reasonable time by doing 3:20. It's just, because we just don't see another solution that is going to ensure that we get, it does no good to have Placentino be at 3:15 if the buses aren't there till 3:20. I mean, that's what it really came down to. And, we're just not confident at this time that we're going to be able to get through that high school, from the high school time by the time, again, if they're rolling out, they're rolling at 2:46, 2:47 by the time the students get final bell at 2:43 and they get into the bus and get the buses rolling. If at 3:15, that's less than a half an hour, and that's just too risky for some of our runs. So this is what the administrative team's recommendation is, and I certainly support. I mean, it was a true collaborative effort, and I do support this recommendation. So I'll take any questions if anybody's interested.
Mrs. Raffi?
So Keith, we don't know yet. The bus pass applications just went out. Is there a reason why we are having this discussion tonight when in fact, and please, I'm saying this with the utmost respect, is there a reason why we cannot wait until the fall and see what really happens? Because I really strongly dislike this proposal.
The rationale behind it, truthfully, is when you're looking at making a change, if we wait to make the change, which we're going to do, I can't see how we're going to make this work without this change. But if we waited to make the change, then we're making that change after people have already set up, whether it be daycare issues or work adjustments or whatever it is. That we feel really confident in these times that this is going to be able to work for us. And, I can appreciate that you hate what I've put forward, and I don't take it personal. But it's just, at this point in time, we don't think the times, based on the behaviors that we saw this year, and I keep putting the caveat in there that I know that this year we can't count on. Yeah. I'm just also worried that there's going to be a fundamental change in the way that people work nowadays, or in the future, I should say, with regards to being able to work more from home, which may create more driving opportunities for parents and less bus opportunities for us to, cluster the children in a bus to have it be a more efficient model. The only alternative that I could see here is that we'd have to keep cars mostly off of our campus when the buses are rolling, keep the cars out of the way, and that's just not going to work. I mean, it's just not. You've seen it, Stacey. You work across the street. The preponderance of cars is infringing on the bus's ability to move on and off campus.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Dawn, and then Amanda.
Sorry. Keith, I appreciate this. So just to be clear, you worked with the principals on this and you identified the problems that we were having at each of the schools, and it's just 2 of the 4 schools that were adjusting the times. Is that correct?
Yes, because again, our problem in the mornings has been the high school and arrival time, and our problems in the afternoon is going to be Placentino and dismissal time. So, we doing anything with Miller at this point in time didn't make any sense, because that one's running pretty well right now. So we believe that we do have a little bit of room to move Adams earlier to hopefully, and again, the goal of that is to help the high school arrival time. Mm-hmm. And the corollary to that, by doing that, it may also help us with the Placentino dismissal time.
No, I appreciate that. And even the idea of holding cars off the campus, you still have kids pouring off of there, and then you have the buses trying to navigate through hundreds of kids walking down those streets too, because they're often meeting cars that are just not parked at the school. But Dawn, not to interrupt, but it's also one of the blessings and curses of having basically a singular campus for every student from K through 8 who can take buses. I don't include pre-K because they're not on our transportation system, but having every child K through 8, in whatever it is from Linden Street to the other side of Miller, excuse me. It's a blessing and a curse. There are efficiencies there, and then there are some, issues with it. So. And I respect that you need to work backwards from times in order to put that bus schedule together expeditiously for families, right? So they can plan on childcare and pickups and all of that. I really don't want to make changes, but I understand why I would just want to ask that if we go back into the fall, and we've done so well at this, pivoting with graduation, pivoting all through this school year, if we go back in the fall and something surprises us, like how many kids are riding the buses or the traffic is way down, that we even consider looking at this again and hearing from families on it. So it's just something to leave out on the table, that if we make this change, and then we find we don't have to, that we're willing to reconsider it, even if the school year started.
This is not something that we would object to. That would be something that you would have to weigh out the community effect and the staff effect on that. Yes. the way we used to adapt to things, and I'm not trying to be funny here, but I'm being honest. The way we used to adapt to things is we would adjust the school clocks, and so we had something that was literally known as Miller time, and it's because Miller School because it was the school in the middle, we used to be able to, we're doing a little faster, we can move it a little earlier. It's a little longer, we can move it. We played around with the Miller start time, and with everybody having cell phones and things of that nature, if we were to move a school clock by 2 or 3 minutes, everybody's going to know it. In those days, nobody knew it. So it's that's the issue there. So.
Amanda?
This is just to piggyback off what Stacy said, but would it make sense to wait until bus pass applications are in to see if there are many more students taking the bus next year than did this year, or is that not really a good indicator?
It's not that it's not a good indicator, but we'd have to build the routes to see how the routes get timed out. And then you're talking about a mid-August decision, and you don't meet until the end of August. It's just pressing things up against, if this is where you need to go, this is where you need to go. I don't think my recommendation is going to change at that point in time because, again, I'm still not going to know traffic patterns even then. But that being said, I would worry that we would not have enough time because we have to build all the routes, and if the routes don't work with the current times, then we may know that on paper. We may not know that until reality. And so if they don't work on paper, then I've got to rebuild all those routes. Now, it won't take forever, but it still is not instantaneous. So those routes would all get rebuilt. And then we're now dealing with having to get the routes to drivers, the routes to parents, again, potential issues with whether it be daycare or, again, our staff has children and their own daycare issues as well. And whether they, have an opportunity to pick up their child at whatever time, 2:30 every day versus 2:45. It's that type of thing. The earlier we do this, the easier it is for people to adjust their lives to the new times. That's all.
I guess so, but I agree, and I appreciate that as a parent and a teacher. It does seem like if people are going to be really taken aback and put out by even that 5 minutes of Placentino, if there's even a solid chance that won't happen, it might be worth waiting. I don't know though.
Can you walk us through that timeline a little bit, Keith? So, Best Pass just got out. I just got mine in the mail. When are they're due back by?
Mid-July.
Mid-July.
We'll start building the routes in the beginning of August.
Okay.
And the routes it takes a week to 10 calendar days to really build it out and test it out and run, and then we run those routes past this year, actually, the contractor will be doing the routes. So it may take 2 weeks this year to do the routes.
But even numbers wise, how many more people would you have to see in terms of ridership in order to make those adjustments?
We may need to make these adjustments regardless.
Okay.
That's the piece of why it's coming now. That even if we were in our normal state of ridership, there's going to be a challenge of getting high school students on a bus, 2:46, 47. If the buses aren't there yet, 2:48, 2:50, and getting them back to Placentino by 3:15. It's going to be snug, and it's just and truthfully, if the buses aren't there on time, Placentino will start to have staff leave because their day will end. And even if they're on bus duty, their bus duty day will end as well at certain points in time. We don't want to choose the Acton-Boxborough model, and I joke about that. But during the whole change in school start times, Jamie Slaney and I went up to Acton-Boxborough to observe their dismissal. And their dismissal, as we reported to you, for those of you who weren't on the committee then, their dismissal was, even though they're a K-5 school, the kindergarten children who were being picked up had a sign-out procedure. Grades 1 through 5 was, go find your parents. Yeah. And that was it. And that's not something that would be acceptable to the staff in Holliston nor the parents in Holliston. And we know that firsthand because we have parents who, when we know them, Jamie can tell stories. We may know the parents, and here's little Billy and here's little Mary. But when that parent, we don't force that parent who we know to show an ID, they challenge us on it. And that has happened multiple times with Jamie. So I just, we can't choose the Acton-Boxborough model. And so without choosing that model, as well as if we say delay the parents, that's the other piece, is if we delay the parents on pickup, to leave campus until the buses get out, because we want the buses rolling without traffic for them. How late are parents going to be queued up in the parking lot in Placentino? I'm categorically concerned that if those buses are not at Placentino before dismissal, we're going to have even more challenges at dismissal. I've got to have those buses there before traffic starts building up to get into there. And I've got to get them out of there while the families are queued up inside the parking lot.
I also think people were more patient this year with all the changes because it was a matter of getting kids back in school in uncertain times, and people had more flexible schedules in some cases because a lot of more people have been working from home, which may not be the case next year. So we didn't get as much pushback. People were just grateful the kids were in school, when they had to wait in those long lines until we got that straightened out. But I do think that would be different next year as well.
Catherine, did you?
The last time we talked about this, Keith, you had mentioned that there might be other schools in our league or other teams we play against in the high school that were going to be moving to later school start times. What came of that?
I spoke with the athletic director a number of times. The Tri-Valley League schedule, while dates have been set, times have not. In general, they've been pretty good about adjusting to times. We experienced that this spring with adjusting times and being flexible on times. If the time called for 4 o'clock, but both schools could play at 3:30 and the officials could be there at 3:30, they were flexible with that. I did speak also with our bus contractor, Tim Holmes, and he feels he has a plan for accommodating both athletic transportation and the late bus. The late bus is going to be later as a difference in time from this year because again because moving and we knew this going into the school start times thing because the difference between the extra 3 buses the extra 3 buses are being used in the middle time now as opposed to the first time, so it's gonna the late bus is going to be a little later anyway, so that we don't anticipate that being a problem. But
I didn't get what you just said there. You said the extra buses are being used in the middle. What does that mean?
We use 15 buses for the high school, middle school run and 12 buses for the elementary run. So we have built in 3 late buses.
Okay.
Last year, not this year. Last year, when the high school, middle school was the first run, those 3 late buses were built in, so they could leave at later than the Miller time, but before the Placentino time. We don't have that same buffer built in. So they'll be leaving probably 3:30ish, say. So it'll be like about probably 10 minutes later. We haven't worked out everything yet, but and we're going to give them the longest runs as we always do anyway for the high school, middle school run. So they're going to be 3:30, 3:40 is when the late bus time is going to be.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have any more questions or comments? Mr. Raffy?
Can we move this to next week's meeting because it's technically not on the agenda?
Well, it's tied to the calendar, so we may be pulling it slightly as an extract from the calendar, but the school day is on the calendar.
Okay, I actually thought this was because we needed to revote the calendar for Juneteenth.
That's what I thought it was for.
Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. We can move it to next week. It's fine.
We move it to next week. I still feel like I need to marinate on this a little bit. I'm not really happy about it. But.
We definitely have to meet next week, Keith, and I'm not trying to push.
I'm not saying that at all. No, I'm just saying. I said it's fine to move it to next week. I was not being facetious.
Okay.
Or whatever other word you would call me then.
Let's just move it. I feel like I need to. I feel like I need more information. Okay.
So we moving on to school choice?
Yes.
Well, wait, can we actually vote the calendar again? Because we need to account for Juneteenth next year.
That's what we're going to.
Well, that's after.
That's after.
School choice.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
So can we still talk about school choice though?
Yep.
Okay.
So given what I shared with you about the kindergarten teacher, we did meet again with the principals to see if we could accept any students. And we had suggested that to you. We needed to do some more homework before we could even have that conversation. And we had to have a vote for June 1st as well. So we did go through that information, and Keith has the chart to share again about what we think we can accommodate. I'm still a little bit hesitant to take any new students for the reasons I explained to you, just because of the uncertainty of what our own current student needs are. But that being said, we have a plan.
Okay, so I'm sharing with you the sheet we had last week with our revised recommendations. The recommendations now, well, recommendations last time didn't exist, so so the recommendations is all the way to the right. So again, based on that additional kindergarten section, we would recommend adding 2 kindergarten seats, and then moving down 4 traditional first grade seats, 3 traditional second grade seats, 3 traditional third grade seats, 1 8th grade seat, and 3, it's listed under 9th grade, but it's 3 high school seats. We have the ability because, and since this is something I negotiated with DESE a number of years ago, that because of the amorphous way with which a high school schedule can work, they understand that we may have gaps in certain places, so they're fine with us offering high school seats as opposed to a specific grade in high school. So overall, we'd be recommending 16 seats, adds up to 15 FTEs because you only get a half a body for the kindergarten since we only have a free half-day program. So we would generate $75,000 in revenue plus any special ed increment that these students had, which would obviously help us tremendously with regards to the losses from the losses in the year-over-year difference. So. Do you want me to leave this up? It's in your packet, or how do you want to do this, Cynthia?
No, if you could take that down so I can see everybody, that'd be great. Thank you. Does anybody have questions? Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, so you just referred to where the money goes, but I don't understand exactly where the money goes. What do we do with that $75,000?
The $75,000 goes into a revolving account, which is, you're allowed to appropriate in any fashion with which you so choose by law. It is not a town meeting appropriation. It's exclusively under the care and custody and rights of assignment of that money to the school committee. We use it to directly offset teacher salaries.
What do you? Okay, what do you mean by
we build it into our budget as an offset. Our teacher payroll is 23 to 24 million, and we use, I don't have the number off the top of my head, about $700,000 of school choice money towards teacher salaries. So if it was 23 million, we only have 22,300,000 in, it's a net number.
Okay, so it's it's because we can't exactly predict teacher salaries because of comings and goings and that sort of thing.
No, it's not that at all. No, it's we plan on school choice as part of the budget process. When we go through the budget process, we account for everybody to be employed next year. And so whatever those costs will be is basically the big gross number. And then we do our offsets from that. Things such as, again, school choice, our school tuition account. When you look at stipends, we have things such as activity fees at the high school, athletic fees at the high school, middle school, coming off of stipended money, grants that come off of some salaries. So again, what goes into the appropriation is the net number, not the gross number, because again, we have these revenue sources that again help the taxpayers of Holliston keeping our taxes down here.
Okay, thanks.
Anyone else have any questions for Mr. Boudet about school choice? Stacy.
I just want to say thank you for not rushing to a conclusion 2 weeks ago and to really taking the time on this. I appreciate that. I appreciate the patience of the community. I appreciate that we are able to offer school choice this year. And I really appreciate all the extra work that you're trying to do things creatively to make the situation work. So with that being said, I'm happy to make a motion to approve the school choice recommendation by the Assistant Superintendent of Finance and Operations of 16 seats for the 2021-2022 school year.
I think, Dawn, did you have a question first?
I did. I know that we are offering up those 16 seats. If they are declined, do we offer any additional ones, or how does that work, Keith?
Basically, so we have, I'll pick first grade traditional. We have six, that's a bad one. Here we are, eighth grade traditional, eighth grade school choice. We have five applications that are in. We have one available seat. So we will do a lottery, pick the first name. If that child rejects it, we then go to the second, then we go to the third, et cetera, et cetera. In general, again, we don't have a ton of seats here, so our fill rate will be higher. In general, though, if in a normal year, when we're opening up 25 seats or something of that nature, our fill rate at the high school level is 50%, if that, less than that, probably in most cases. Our fill rate at kindergarten is much higher. Fill rate probably at kindergarten is probably 80 to 90%, where high school is like 30 to 40% because of as I said a couple of weeks ago, the high school parents shop, and I'm not saying that in a flip way, they shop more. And, they're shopping around and is this of interest to my child? Is this the right threat for my child, et cetera? And, I've spent a lot of years, managing this program and interfacing with people from other communities on this. And, again, it's more than anecdotal, the data that I've seen. So.
Thank you.
There is a motion on the floor to approve the school choice seats.
Catherine had her hand up, though. I think.
Sorry, Catherine. Where are you?
I actually just wanted to know, Dr. Kuska, you had written us a lengthy memo about this, and you said you still had some reservations. I just kind of wanted to hear, if you don't mind, what you're thinking, and if you're, that's it. There's nothing else that comes after that. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that smaller number, just because we reviewed it with the principals, and since we're adding the kindergarten teacher with COVID-related funds is what we predict. So in that vein, I'm okay with the 16. I wouldn't want to go any higher than that.
Okay. In that case, I'll second the motion.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Ms. Raffi?
Yes.
Dr. Savard?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
Mrs. Listevnik, yes. Thank you very much. I'm glad we were able to get that sorted out. Okay. And let's see. Next we have is new business. Dr. Kuska, the update of the school calendar. And this is where we thought we were just adding Juneteenth to the calendar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was, as Stacy mentioned, we did forget to put when Juneteenth falls on a Sunday, it was already voted as a Massachusetts law that Monday would be the holiday. And now it's become federal law from my understanding. So either way, it would have needed to be to a Monday holiday on the calendar. And we had forgotten that. I knew that earlier in the year and just we neglected to put that on there.
So
I don't want to get too into it right now, but we do have a lot of holidays, and that is why we're starting so early and ending so late. I feel like we're one of the very few districts that I'm hearing of is still in session, or some that are ending tomorrow. So, I don't have an answer for that because it would mean not necessarily having all the religious holidays that we have. So I'm not suggesting that. I'm just putting it out there. That is, with the hot weather, the earlier you start, the later you go. It just increases some of our concerns around heat and in the buildings later in the year and earlier in the year.
Yeah, you did have a chart that you had sent to everyone. Where is that
chart on comparison
on the different holidays that different schools? Okay.
Yes, I asked Lisa to do a little research on that, so that should be in your packet.
Okay. Any questions about the calendar edition? Okay. I could entertain a motion to approve the Juneteenth holiday, which will be falling on June 20th of 2022.
Moved by Dawn.
Seconded by Stacy.
Moved by Dawn, seconded by Stacy. Roll call vote. Ms. Raffi?
Yes.
Dr. Savard?
Yes.
Ms. Laborski?
Yes.
Sorry, I flubbed that up. Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
And Mrs. Listevnik, yes. Thank you. Let's see. So we already did the handbook changes. District priority, strategic planning update, Dr. Kuska.
So I had sent you last meeting, after the last meeting, I had shared with you some information about the Teaching Learning Alliance consultancy group that is going to be doing our strategic planning. I have not had a chance to meet with them to talk about dates, but I do plan on starting to schedule feedback groups and things like that with different stakeholders in the community and the schools. And that'll be late September into early October. So when I know more information, I can share that then. But I just figured if you had any questions right now, I'd be able to answer them since I shared that after the last meeting.
Right. Are there any questions for Dr. Kuska on the strategic plan proposal? Mrs. Raffi?
My question is, how many school committee members did you want on this? Or are we waiting to hear from the consultants?
I'm going to review the makeup of the committee with the consultants, but I'm already just thinking out loud. It's going to get very large very quickly because they did not mention having teachers on the committee. They talked about having them in feedback groups. I already know that we should have at least one elementary and one secondary teacher. That's just very important to me. I also think the town administrator needs to be on there. I feel like the central leadership team and then some building representation. So I was thinking potentially a diverse Holliston parent and a CPAC parent. So as you go through that list, I probably would only have room for one school committee member just because I think the group could start getting very unwieldy. But that's until we put the whole makeup together and we count up. And I talked to the consultant, they might have other ideas as well. But they're pretty flexible as far as, taking our input onto the process. They're not set that it's going to be one way.
I'm trying to remember how many people we had in the strategic planning committee last time.
So I would just say just because we did it in the past doesn't mean it's right or whatever, but I would just say that, the strategic plan is part of the school committee purview in terms of district goals and the roadmap, et cetera. So I guess I would be more comfortable with 2 or 3, but we certainly don't have to vote it tonight either.
Right.
We can certainly wait, but I should have asked you sooner too when I was putting the recommendations together for the subcommittees. So my apologies for that.
Yeah, no, I'm more just worried about having so many people, and even the principals. I know they're all going to want to be on it. We're not going to be able to take all the principals for the same reason. So we'll be creative as to how we pick that group, and I'll report back to you when I have a better sense of that.
Okay, so we do want to hold on that for then when we do our next vote, we can just hold on that until you have more clarity around that.
Yeah, because I wasn't thinking of vote right now, just more informational. I'm not sure what would you vote on the makeup.
Oh, I was just talking about in terms of for the subcommittees. I'll just hold on that.
Oh.
When we do the next part, which was the subcommittee assignments, that I'll just hold on that until we have more clarity on what we're looking at in the numbers. Okay.
Just one additional question, Dr. Kuska. So that planning committee, it looked like it was going to have subcommittees within it. Is that correct?
They talked about feedback groups, so I have to get a better handle on it just because I haven't had a chance to circle back. So I'll get, Dr. Bostell has reached out to me and we've been playing back and forth a little bit. So once I catch up with him, I'll be able to give you more information.
Thank you.
Okay. And the idea was that we would start this in the fall with the hopes of having a plan completed by the end of the spring?
Yeah, or possibly
the timeline?
earlier. I mean,
really? Okay.
Ideally, I might like to have it done by mid-year if possible, or a little later, and maybe pilot some of the things that we're starting to think of.
Okay.
That's a hope. I'm not going to promise.
Yeah, okay. We won't oversell. Okay. All right. Okay, the next is the subcommittee assignments per policy BDE. And in your packet, you should have a memo from Stacy about her recommended subcommittee assignments and some discussion around that. So I wanted to open the floor for people to discuss.
I just wanted to say I went in and actually updated it today after a conversation with someone. So depending on what we decide for strategic plan, my recommendation would be to switch out Cynthia, take her off strategic plan and move her to the district culture task force, and take Amanda off district culture and move her to strategic plan. Because she had expressed a specific interest for that specifically. That was just just a recommendation based on some conversations.
Okay.
And per our policy, we really want to try and make sure that everybody is on at least one of the main subcommittees, which is budget, policy, and superintendent evaluation. And we could have a discussion. I don't think tonight's the night, and I'm not even sure how I feel about it, but someone had asked me, why do you even need a subcommittee for some of these? Could you do a working group, which would be only 2 people, and then you don't have to deal with quorum and open meeting law issues? So just throwing that out there as well.
In terms of what? Communications?
No, actually, someone told me for budget.
For budget?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Okay, Lisa?
I was actually going to make a suggestion on budget. I'm just throwing this out there. But I wonder if, Cynthia, I don't know how tired you are of policy, but I had thought that Amanda would be a really good fit on the budget subcommittee. Because she's a math teacher and, I don't want to get into this situation again where we have a lot of people who may not be continuing on the school committee on one committee. I thought it would be really good to get one of our new members on that committee on budget because frankly, I thought long and hard about not running again. And if that had happened, there would have been no returning members of the budget subcommittee this year. So I just thought that could also be helpful in, if you can stand it, Cynthia, you being on policy would also sort of, I'm sure, be a big help in terms of continuity on that subcommittee. So I don't know if you guys have any interest in swapping out policy and budget, but I wanted to throw that out there as an option or an idea.
I think the only issue with that is that pretty typically there's someone from the chair is on the budget. So that's the reason why I was put on the budget, because I'm chair. So it wasn't because I didn't want to do policy anymore. I'm happy to join back onto policy, but typically the chair is on.
We didn't do that when Stacy was chair. And I also think that we've had some discussion in the past, if I remember correctly, that's kind of like too much for one person. It doesn't spread things around evenly enough because obviously the chair has a lot of responsibilities, but also budget is a huge responsibility. So I think in the past we've talked about intentionally not having the chair on the budget subcommittee.
Yes, but this year, especially during governance discussions, the former budget chair made it very clear that the chair should also be on the budget and said that's what should have happened. So I guess
not to chair budget, right? But not to chair budget, to be a member of budget.
Right.
I wouldn't expect to chair budget. Dawn?
Cynthia, if you're open to it, I would see an opportunity with the fact that you, I guess, are listed here for district culture and anti-bullying task force. If you were on policy, I think you could help join those 2 groups because what you're developing in district culture and anti-bullying is going to fit closely in with policy. And that may be the way we can make change quickly, right? By connecting those 2 groups and taking a look at those policies and seeing how we can improve it to align with that group.
Minnie, did you have a comment to make or a question?
Yes, I wanted to check, Stacy, how did you arrive at the names on the recommendation for the subcommittees? Because I I wasn't sure about how you made the recommendations, and I just wanted to have an idea of the recommendations that I see here. So I just wanted to have a little, that's pretty much it. I'm just repeating myself.
I literally just picked the 3 main ones and said, how can we all be on it? That was really the no rhyme or reason.
Well,
yeah, Minnie, you should express a different preference if you have something. I mean, in years past, we haven't really started out this way. We've all kind of contributed to a Google Doc or something, and we've all sort of said what we wanted to do. And I mean, I appreciate, Stacy, I appreciate you putting this together, but Minnie, you shouldn't feel like you can't voice a different preference. I mean, Lord knows I've voiced different preferences in the past when I haven't wanted to serve on certain committees and I've wanted to serve on others. So I think you should feel free to.
Yeah, I think basically what I am getting at here is that I don't truly know exactly, except for budget, what am I even expected to do in these, and what are the responsibilities, and how I would fit in, or how I can contribute the best that I have. So I don't know where to find the information on these subcommittees either. And I just have, for reference, I just have a header and 3 names. So I just need more information, I feel, before I can sign up on something. And that's pretty much where I am coming from. So,
well, why don't we quickly, I mean, that's a fair point. I think we need to orient our new members a little bit better. So why don't we quickly talk about the different, I mean, Cynthia, you can certainly talk to policy. I can talk to budget really quickly. And then maybe Stacy, you could jump in on superintendent evaluation or whatever. But why don't we just take, is that okay, Cynthia, if we take a couple minutes?
Sure. I know Stacy did send along with that document, there was a link to MASC, and it lists the responsibilities of the chair, but also different members as well. And it does outline some of those subcommittees within that too. So you can refer to that as well. But just to go quickly over, with policy, we review all of the policies that follow for all students. There's also a separate staff handbook that Dr. Kuska is in charge of, but we talk specifically about students and their environment within the schools. And we have a 3-year review process. So we start literally from the beginning of the book with going through A's, and we, all the way through K or L, and go through every policy in a 3-year rotation. So it's not perfect. We try to make sure that we keep doing that on a routine basis, but we don't always make it through all the way. And we review over policies. Right now, we're involved in a lot of policies that have to do with student conduct. So they are very involved, and we have to, meet with different administrators, and we enlist their support and help in crafting those policies that reflect best practices, et cetera, like that. So, and we try to meet at least monthly with that subcommittee. And there's a lot of kind of homework in between that you have to do in terms of, you get assigned certain policies to review over, make sure they're updated, make sure they reflect the current practices, and that they're on what's reflected on the website. And sometimes we don't make any changes, and sometimes we just say, we reviewed it, looks good, we're going to move on. So I guess that's what policy is to start. That's a brief one anyway. All right, Lisa, you want to give a little budget?
Yeah, so budget, we have sort of, instead of meeting once a month, we kind of have a busy season and an off season. So budget, you wouldn't meet as frequently in the fall. You would tend to really, we would have a couple of meetings, but you would really get going around January. That's when our budget process really goes into full swing. And we kick it off usually with a strategic initiatives meeting. And that's where the principals usually present to us kind of ideally, if money were no object, what they would like to do in their schools. And, most years we can't really afford a lot of that. But in the last couple of years, we've been able to get a couple of things. And that's where the SDL DEI position came out of. So that's the starting point. And then we have, we tend to have more frequent meetings among the 3 of us with Keith and Susan. throughout January, February, and into the spring. And then also with our FinCom liaisons, and that's 3 members of the Finance Committee, which is a 7-member board. But there are 3 members who are our liaisons, and we talk to them about, what our budget is looking like and what our priorities are, and start to talk to them about how much money are we, going to have to work with. And, it's a slow process. So we work closely with both Mr. Boudet and Dr. Kuska. They're always in those meetings with us. And, generally it's gets crazier and crazier in the spring. And sometimes we have to meet weekly or more for a period, depending on how, how many tough decisions we're making, basically, in any given budget season. But we are basically taking the information that Keith and Susan give us and trying to make strategic decisions about what we can recommend to the committee as a whole for how best to spend that money.
Okay.
So superintendent evaluation, we begin at the beginning of the year, of the fiscal year. So this time, setting up goals with the superintendent. We do 1 year, we alternate years. 1 year is a formative assessment. The second year is a summative assessment. And so the committee, the subcommittee works together with the superintendent on the goals, and then really facilitates the process of getting the feedback from the stakeholders, and then writes the actual evaluation that all members participate in, but they really facilitate putting it together. And that's, in a nutshell, the superintendent evaluation.
Does that help at all, Minnie?
Yeah, it does. It does. It definitely does. And yeah, I definitely think that they're all good recommendation. I would have loved to be in policy. I don't know if you guys, I know it's like 4 is a quorum, but that's something I would definitely. Sorry, but yeah, that's what. So I was expecting something like a Google Doc to, have preferences, strengths, weakness, something like that. So that's why it came as a surprise.
Well, and we try to make sure that you're at least represented in the main subcommittees that we have to have. So we have to have budget, we have to have policy, we have to have the superintendent evaluation. So I'm rotating them through. And often, like policy is a great place to start when you're new, so that you can kind of get a lay of the land too. Any one of them is a great place to start, to be honest with you, but just trying to plug in those who are, some who are seasoned and have been in those roles previously, so they really know where they're going, and those who are not. So I think that's where we're coming from.
Do you want to switch with Amanda? So the other thing is Cynthia definitely should be on budget as well, because she is also, the chair is on the ARPA committee, which is the the new CARES, if you will. So I think she should absolutely, for that reason, be on there as well. So Minnie, if policy is where you really want to be, Amanda, would you be interested in superintendent evaluation?
I think I'm already on superintendent.
She is already, I can't
evaluation, which I have no interest in. No offense, Dr. Kuska. But I would be glad. I'll be glad to do it. Of those 3, my top 2 choices would be budget and/or policy. But I'll do it.
So she's already in policy. So I'm
right now in policy and super evaluation.
Yeah, so I don't think she can switch.
What is the ARPA role? I wasn't familiar with that. I'm sorry.
I just wanted to point out that evaluation is literally what I do for a profession. So I would be happy to do the superintendent evaluation. I'm happy to take that. Amanda, if you don't want to do that, I am very comfortable doing that.
I would love to not do it.
Okay.
Can I be difficult again? So first of all, Cynthia and Stacy, I really appreciate you shuffling, because I said I would love to be on strategic planning. That's awesome. But I really especially wanted to be on, I was psyched to be on district culture / anti-bullying. So I don't want to leave that one.
Okay.
Yes, you're totally being difficult because I also want to be in district.
I know, that's like the good one, right? Because that's like, no, we're so passionate about it. I know.
Yeah, that's definitely one I'm like, with closed eyes, I would love to be there. Yeah, absolutely. That's the only one I knew that I want to be there on.
The district culture mini?
No, the anti-bullying. Oh, is it?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Anti-bullying.
Yeah. The anti-bullying. That's definitely somewhere I see myself very well. And superintendent evaluation is also absolutely fine. I would love to learn more. I don't have to be in policy. Don't get me wrong. It's not something that I want to be in, but it was just something that came up because I wasn't very sure how this works. So that's why I had the question.
Right. Okay.
I don't have to be in district culture.
But you want to be.
I'll just be fine.
Okay.
You should stay there. I could also be pulled from that one. I am fine with that.
So John, you're saying Minnie, Amanda, and Cynthia on district culture.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Dawn.
Amanda, don't blow.
I know.
I know.
I'm bragging.
And Minnie. Okay. Strategic plan we're holding. How are we feeling about communication?
I'm fine with it. It's not a passion of mine, but I would, actually, I would like to do it. You were right. You were right. That was a good call.
Okay. And where are we landing now with superintendent evaluation? Because we're flopping back and forth here.
I'm on that one.
Catherine.
Okay, Catherine's going to go there.
In place of
Minnie,
Amanda.
you're going to come up to, I'm sorry, in place of Amanda. Okay. Hold on. Okay.
And then we need to go back to considering Amanda's request for budget.
Yeah.
Right. Except for if I have to be on this ARPA, I have to know the finances. So that's.
What, I'm not familiar with that. What is that? Why do you have to be on
Trav,
It's because of the.
talked about the department head meeting yesterday, so I can give you an update on that. So they're putting together the committee for how to spend the funds that are coming into the town, which we can request some of that, and the department heads are going to be able to prioritize needs, and then it will run through this ARPA committee, which is the group of people that will look at the priorities for the town and what we spend that money on as a town. And yes, the chair of the school committee is a sitting member on that group, so that it absolutely makes perfect sense that she would need to know what's going on in the budget sub, and that would make recommendations too, because I will be coming to you to say we might need money for this as one-time funds. The ARPA funds are what, 3 years, Key, through 24, FY24? So yeah, 3 years from now. So it's what, 4.1? Oh, well, no, what is it? Do you have the amount?
It's almost $5 million, so.
A lot of money.
It's $1.5 million a year plus a little bit, so.
Yeah, so that's the setup of the committee on the town side, and the chair is a designee for that committee.
It's not the budget chair is not a designee for that committee? Like,
No.
No,
and why? I guess my question is why is that? Who formed the ARPA committee and designated who you're placing on
I believe it was the town administrator that put the committee together, but I don't know who worked with him on that. He sent that all out to us.
Could you provide that to us too? I don't think we were in the loop on it.
Yeah, I'll have to look back. I don't even know when or how. He brought it up at our department head meeting, but let me see where I'll get something from him.
And I'm happy not to be on budget. I appreciate you guys really being accommodating to me, and I don't need it on my choices. That's perfectly fine, and I'm sure I will get a chance to be on it sometime.
Oh, you will. Okay. And then who do we have then on policy if I just removed Catherine? Did I move you off of that, Catherine? Are you still
No.
on?
I didn't think so.
So Catherine and Amanda, Stacy. Yes? Okay, I just want to make sure. It's late, but double checking.
I'm sorry, one more tiny thing. I also have been working pretty closely with Diverse Holliston. I'm in it. Could Lisa
Oh, yeah.
both be on that, or is there no such thing as two?
No, there's no reason we can't have two.
Of course.
Thank you.
Oh, all the liaisons. Okay, so let's, let me flip over this document.
Somebody's going to have to read the whole list again, both for the
I know.
newsletter and for voting purposes.
Okay.
So how about this? How about I make a motion to approve the following main subcommittees?
Right.
And then we can do the others.
Okay.
Budget, Lisa Koshin, Cynthia Listevnik, Don Naborski, with Lisa starred as chair. Policy, Catherine Savard. Catherine, are you still okay with being chair of policy?
I won't leave you out in the lurch, Catherine.
All right, it'll work out.
Amanda Bigelow and Stacy Raffi. Superintendent evaluation, Stacy Raffi, Catherine Savard, and Minnie Gupta, with Stacy being the quote unquote chair of that subcommittee. Communications, Dawn, Amanda, and Lisa, with Dawn being chair of that committee. So I move to approve those as our subcommittees for the 2021-2022 school year.
Moved by Lisa.
Seconded by Stacy.
All in favor, roll call vote. Ms. Raffi?
Yes.
Dr. Savard?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
And Mrs. Listevnik, yes. Thank you, everybody. All right, so we also have on the other side, we have the negotiations. We don't have to, we have to approve those too, I guess. Let's see. Does anybody have any strong, go ahead, Lisa.
I was originally on paras, so I thought I was going to continue with that.
Right. I don't want to be on paras per se, but I'm saying if you can't make.
Yeah, it was about timings.
If it was about the timing and childcare issue and the meeting in person, et cetera, I'm happy to do it for you. I'm not burning, like I have to be on it because I'm.
Well, we could do those remotely. We don't have to do them in person, right?
We need to talk about that further, to be honest.
Not preferable, especially with
I know it's not preferable, but I mean, I would like to remain on paras because I was on it last time and we went through a lot. And I want to be part of the negotiations process in some way, shape, or form.
You're welcome to be on it. It's fine.
It's more that the hours have to be after hours because they can't do it during, that's all.
Right, but there's no reason we can't. I mean, we could meet remotely, even if it's not preferable. We have the ability to do that through the end of the year.
Yeah,
and we can also mix it up. I mean, you know, we can have some in person and some remotely.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Lisa, that I mean, certainly the school committee can choose to do that, but I do find that we seem to make less progress when we're doing these remote. I mean, we spend so many hours on the MOUs, and it just seems like people have no sense of urgency, and then they take breaks when they're remote. And I've just found it has not been real conducive to negotiations. It's been conducive to other things, but so something to think about.
Yeah, would there be a way to like maybe hybrid Lisa in the times when she can't come in person?
I'm sure.
So for the paras, what are the timing challenges?
Has to be after school.
It has to be
after 3 o'clock or after 3:15.
Actually, after Passatino gets out, so really.
Sorry, so like 3:30. Yeah, 3:15.
And are there fixed days or they can just happen as and when needed?
Not fixed days. It's just that they have to take place after school.
I see. Gotcha.
And that could be hard for, childcare issues, et cetera. So.
Really, we can leave it as is. It was an option where Lisa, I too was on paras. That's the only reason why I said I'm happy to do it if we think it's going to be a scheduling issue for you. I'm happy to leave it as is.
And what are we going to do about teachers? We do need a third person on teachers.
So I'd like to suggest Cynthia, because she was the person who was, who stepped up to do it in the fall. And then that's when our attorney advised not adding anybody. So I'm, you know, she can speak for herself, but that would be
Was anybody else interested in doing it?
I can do it. I mean, I would not mind coming in if you still have. But if Cynthia has to be there, that's fine too.
Well, she
that's
doesn't
the other
have
question. Do I have to be there? I don't know that I have to be there. Do I, Dr.
I'm
Kuska?
sure we need a third person at this point, to be quite honest.
That's fair.
After I last
That is fair. Especially if we're not doing, we're not actually debating anything at this point. I don't know.
Why don't we just leave off the negotiations for now? Why don't
let's
we
pause on that.
revisit all of the negotiation positions?
Well, some of them we actually have to start working on, so we can't, you know, like paras, we have to start working on those. And, you know, only reason why I put myself for cafeteria workers is because I did it before. If somebody else has a burning desire to do cafeteria workers, I'm happy to give that up. I also did secretaries before, and that's the only reason why I'm on it. But if someone else wants to take on those negotiations along with, is it Mr. Boudet who heads those?
Most of the time, when you guys establish your negotiating subcommittees, you're doing it in an executive session because it is an executive sessionable thing. So when because you don't always, again, you don't know when units are going to come forward and request to negotiate.
Right.
So I don't necessarily think you have a pressing need to do this tonight.
Okay.
And Minnie, I didn't recommend you for any of the negotiations because most of them do start at 4. We try and do 4 so that we're not doing a 7 to 9. And I know that based on your schedule, you're in your place of business till 6. So you know, that was another just consideration because most of them do try and start at 4 so that you're not doing an evening negotiation all the time.
So so are the dates known ahead of time? That's my question, mostly. Like, is it like, oh, we are meeting tomorrow, let's meet at 4 tomorrow? Does it happen that way, or is it like?
We try to set ground and set up like the next 3 meetings ahead of
3 meetings usually.
Yeah, but sometimes if you're negotiating, it does require an additional meeting the next day, but that's not as common. I mean, it's when you're getting into tense time sometimes.
Yeah. No, I can be in negotiation. I just need to know the calendar to be able to adjust. That's the thing. That's the only thing. That's the plus of owning a business.
Okay. Well, we can talk about those next week because it's getting.
Okay, so where did we end up? Are we going to vote on the district culture anti-bullying task force?
Yes. So I was going to make a motion to approve the district's culture task force with Cynthia, Minnie, and Amanda. And then I was going to include in that motion that we keep teachers HFT with Stacy and Amanda, and that paras Cynthia, Dawn, and Lisa. The others.
I thought we were discussing adding Minnie to teachers.
We were just saying that we don't know if we need to actually do anything with that right now.
I think we need, I don't want to vote on it then. I think we need 3 people on that committee. I think we need 3 people on the teachers negotiation committee. So if we're going to put it, if we're going to put that discussion off, then let's just put it off.
And I would prefer Cynthia because Cynthia has been in the conversations for the year. And it's a lot to, you know, I don't want to start from scratch again in terms of having to onboard 2 new people. I'm just being honest.
At the same time, Stace, I think we have to give people the opportunity to train and learn these positions, because looking ahead, we don't know where any of us will be. And I mean, I think it's helpful to onboard the new people and bring them into these committees, because it's a heavy training process too.
I know it's a heavy training process. That's why I'm saying I'm not sure I want to onboard two people at the same time.
Well, then the other option is to keep Anne Louise. We have that option. She's willing to do it. I'm definitely opposed to two people. The negotiations are too important and they're at too critical of a point right now.
So she'll be a non-voting member?
Yeah, she'd be able to help negotiate the contract. She just wouldn't, she wouldn't be a voting member of the school committee because she's not on the school committee anymore.
But she can be a part of the...
She can be part of the negotiation subcommittee.
Yeah,
I'm not comfortable with that. I think it should be a school committee member, current school committee member now. I mean, to Dawn's point, if we're trying to onboard everyone, why are we, we need to do that in one way.
Well, I was offering that up because Stacy doesn't want to onboard two people, and that's a way to avoid onboarding two people. You don't have to onboard Anne Louise.
And Stacy thought it would be important for someone to have the historical background or has the background of what's gone on. So it is a very it is another option.
Which is why I wanted to.
I'd be happy to learn. Honestly, it's fine. I would love to do it because I think that is something which has really caught on the interest of the community. And I think having a diverse voice might not be a bad idea. And especially, I don't honestly have any stake in any of the schools with any of the teachers anymore. So, and I've been a teacher as well. So I think it's something which I would be absolutely happy to vote on. And I know it's just not going to stop on 30th June. It's something which is.
Let's hope. Let's have a vote on that.
Yeah, I mean,
here's my issue though. We had this vote without Cynthia. You stepped up to do it in the fall. Like I'm,
at the 12th hour.
I don't like that we're, dismissing her as being on that committee.
The only reason Stacy, I think you and Cynthia, have a lot of the same opinions, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that we need to have, it's been a year and it's been a long time. And I think there's nothing wrong with fresh eyes on it. And I think that you need to have a diversity of opinions on that committee. Because it's tough. It's at a really critical point, and it's a really, really tough knot to untie.
And I'm in no ways dismissing Cynthia. I mean, obviously we appreciate her. She is now chair. She is on budget. She is working on a number of these committees. I do think it's important to include new people in this process for the future of this, the next time you go at it with negotiations. And I'd appreciate her viewpoint on this as someone new and fresh to it.
I'm fine.
And don't worry, Stacey, I know teachers' contracts, so you don't have to do much work. I won't ask you any obnoxious questions.
Okay.
Well, not many.
And I'll just latch on to Amanda.
I got you.
Okay.
All right, so what are we voting on right now?
So we're voting on District Culture Anti-Bullying Task Force, teacher negotiations, and Paris. Do we also want to discuss the liaisons, or should we wait till next week because it's 10:45?
I would vote next week.
Okay.
Well, no, you know what? We got to do it tonight. We can't keep pushing off the negotiation stuff. So
I wasn't pushing off the negotiations.
You're talking about liaisons.
I was just talking about the liaisons.
Oh, let's.
Okay.
Do we all approve it other than me being added to Devers Holliston?
Yeah. Who wants to?
I just didn't know if there was going to be another discussion that was going along with the rest of the liaisons. And if there isn't going to be discussion, then we can vote on it.
So you can have two people, right?
On
Yeah.
what, Manny?
So on liaisons.
Which one?
On liaison, which one did you look at?
Liaisons, yeah, that's what I call it, right? So so you have like Cynthia is on select board, and I would love to work on that. I would love to learn.
Okay. I didn't know, Minnie, if you were interested in HMAPA since you're involved with, music, et cetera. Amanda's on it right now, but doesn't mean you can't have more than one or have an alternate, for example.
Right. That would be certainly fine with me, or to give it to her or to work with her. Any of those is fine.
Oh, I would work with you. I'm not going to take it on at this point until I learn more. But yeah, I'm absolutely fine with working and learning more.
The liaison meeting is really you just attend the meetings.
Right. So you'd have to go to the select board meeting.
Attend the meetings and you then report back to the committee during our public comment. That's really what the liaisons do for most of them.
Okay.
So
that's all it is reporting to them. It's just giving them another touch point to the school committee and vice versa.
So then I would move for the liaisons to add Minnie to select board, Amanda to diverse Holliston, and Minnie to HMAPA. Catherine?
And Catherine to CPAC?
Sure. And Catherine to CPAC.
Okay. Stacy made a motion. If I have a second. You made a motion, right, Stacy?
Wait, what are we voting on for? If we're doing this all at once, are we doing teachers and paras right now too?
Yeah, we left. Yes, we left. Yes, we did those already. We discussed.
No, we haven't voted on teachers and paras.
It's all part of the motion.
We're all voting.
No,
on
but
all
who
of
are we
them.
putting on teachers?
Stacy, Amanda, and Minnie.
Okay.
And we're adding you back to paras, Lisa, instead of Stacy.
Okay.
I'm also not on any negotiating at all. So if you want me to take the cafeteria worker, Cynthia, I can take that off your plate.
Great. Done.
And Catherine on cafeteria workers. I'm amending my motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Amanda. Roll call vote. Ms. Raffi?
Yes.
Dr. Savard?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
And Mrs. Listevnik, yes.
Did we vote on culture anti-bullying? I
did.
feel like we did.
That was
Okay.
included in that.
So confused, right?
I know. That's the danger of doing these so late, right?
Yes.
I feel like I just end up saying yes at the end because of so it's like, but it's fun.
Okay. All right. We do have some housekeeping items as well. I know this seems like there's a lot, but it's really just housekeeping. The annual disclosure statement, Dr. Kuska, did you want to speak to that or you just want me to mention it?
Well, Lisa told me that it's done every year, and I didn't really get much
Okay, sure.
more than that.
It's done every year. We all have to sign it, give it to the town clerk. It's in your packet. Basically just says that you recognize that there's fees, activity fees and things that you would also have an interest in, basically, because you have children in the district. So you just have to sign that and give that to Liz Greendale. Or are we collecting them at the office and then bringing them, or should we just bring them to the town ourselves?
Lisa was collecting them.
She is collecting? Okay. So we'll just give them to Lisa Aronian, please.
You could even take a picture of it and text it to her or email it to her.
Well, that's a good idea.
Right, you can do it as a scan.
Technology. Amazing. Okay. And then we have the approval of a voting member of the Tech Board of Directors. And historically, we always vote for the superintendent to represent us at both Tech and Accept as the Board of Directors. Does anybody have any questions about that? No? Great. I'll entertain a motion to approve Dr. Kuska as the voting member of the Tech Board of Directors.
Moved by Dawn.
Seconded by Catherine.
Moved by Dawn, seconded by Catherine. Roll call vote. Ms. Raffi?
Yes.
Dr. Savard?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
And Mrs. Listevnik, yes. Thank you. And I'll entertain a motion for to approve Dr. Kuska as the voting member of the Accept Board of Directors. Is there a motion? Oops, sorry. Moved by Stacy, seconded by Dawn. Roll call vote. Ms. Raffi?
Yes.
Dr. Savard?
Yes.
Ms. Naborski?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
And Mrs. Listevnik, yes. Thank you. And here we go. The newsletter content, Lisa. We're here.
Okay. So everyone has the Google Doc, right?
Yeah.
Everyone, please open your Google Doc.
Yes. Mine is open.
Mine was open too.
Are we going to add anything about, are we going to put in the school choice seats? I haven't even written that up yet. We're going to have, I think we should skip that. It's really late and I haven't written that up.
There's no need to. I don't think we
don't need to. Take it out.
Okay. So the first section is hoping for a contract resolution. This is just a slightly shorter version. I stuck to the exact same language that was online that was already approved, but I just shortened it a little bit for the sake of the newsletter. And then I linked to the whole thing. Does anybody have any comments, questions, concerns about the contract section? Okay. The second section is our farewell and good luck to Dr. Botello. I hope, Dr. Botello, that you read this and that I did not make any mistakes or misrepresent anything in any way. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay.
This is where you're supposed to say, I'm awesome, I'm authentic. Here's your chance, Peter.
Okay, start times we didn't vote on. School choice, I'm taking that out. The welcome to Amanda and Minnie, again, they have reviewed this, so I'm not going to make any changes unless...
I'll just really add a little line.
Sure.
If that's okay?
Sure.
We'll just do this right after.
Oh, no, we have to do it now.
Oh, we have to do it live.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right.
You can type it in the document or just tell Lisa what to type. Oh, and Lisa, take out my little comment. Sorry.
Yeah, I think.
I will.
Cynthia, when you put in the question mark, what were you suggesting me to put in there?
Let me see, under here.
Yeah, it was right somewhere here.
Provides, it's talking about the nonprofit group that provides an ethnic platform to the local South Asian population.
Oh, okay. I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know
what platform meant.
Okay, platform. The Mohiba. We do the annual Diwali. Is that what you?
That's what I thought. That's where I thought you were trying to talk about. That's why I was asking about it earlier when I was texting.
Okay, wait, hold on.
Yeah.
I'll
So
add
that was about the Diwali celebration.
Okay, I know what you mean. Oh. My hands are getting stuck. Organizer of the annual Diwali event in Holliston. Does that sound right?
It just needs to be, instead of a comma, I think you need and. Mm-hmm. So being their lead event organizer, actually it should be being the lead.
Yeah. Being the lead, yes.
Event organizer of the annual Diwali event in Holliston and leading a team of extraordinary talented volunteers has given her vast experience. Yeah, that works.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, and the newly elected leadership, if you guys just want to scan through that and make sure I didn't mess anything up. I was trying to follow along as we voted, but you might want to look through it really quickly. And that's it. I'm ready to vote unless anybody has any questions or concerns.
No questions or concerns. Moved by Dawn.
Second by Minnie.
Moved by Dawn, seconded by Minnie. Ms. Raffi? I lost her.
Stacy, you're on mute.
Stacy, Ms. Raffi?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Savard?
Yes.
Ms. Navorski?
Yes.
Ms. Koshin?
Yes.
Ms. Gupta?
Yes.
Ms. Bigelow?
Yes.
Mrs. Listevnik, yes. Okay. Thank you for writing that up, Lisa.
Yes, thank you, Lisa.
Okay, warrants. Mrs. Raffi, did you sign any warrants this week?
I did. So there was a school bill warrant in the amount of $226,560.91. A school bill warrant in the amount of $39,619. A school bill warrant in the amount of $153,673.42. A direct payment warrant in the amount of $16,964.41. And a cafeteria bill in the amount of $25,956.79. And there was no breakdown of COVID in any of those warrants.
Okay, that's fine. I was going to ask that, but okay. All right. Items of information, none. We do need to set a meeting for next week. I don't know if we were able to get any consensus on what we were requesting earlier.
I did not get a sense of consensus, and I'm not sure I heard back from everyone, so.
Okay. So is there a preference to, well, you have to post it. The soonest we could meet would be Tuesday, right? Do we have time?
Wait, why are we meeting? Is this executive session?
Well, we have other items.
Regular meeting, Lisa, we might need a budget vote after your meeting on Monday.
Yeah, that's why.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so we need to have another meeting scheduled, even if we don't
It's
use
late.
it.
I'm sorry.
I know.
I would prefer Tuesday or Wednesday evening.
Tuesday or Wednesday evening? Can
I'm
anybody
booked
else
on Wednesday night.
book Wednesday night? Okay, Tuesday evening.
Sorry, I'm also booked on Wednesday night as well.
Okay. How is Tuesday looking for everybody? I'm looking around the room here. Tuesday.
Are we doing it
7 o'clock.
remotely or in person?
Can do it remotely.
Okay. Can we do Tuesday evening then?
Is Tuesday evening okay? I'm looking around. Wave your hands madly if you don't want to do Tuesday evening. 'Cause like,
So you can meet without me, I can't do Tuesday.
okay. Oh, I thought you just said you couldn't do Wednesday.
I can't do Wednesday either, so.
Okay. Okay. Are you comfortable not being there for a vote, Stacy, if we have to vote?
It's fine. I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm comfortable.
All right. Is that a snark? Okay. So Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. Okay. And
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
roll call vote, Mrs. Raffi,
Yes.
Dr. Savard,
Yes.
Ms. Navorski,
Yes.
Ms. Koshin,
Yes.
Ms. Gupta, Ms. Bigelow.
Yes.
Yes.
And Mrs. Listevnik, yes. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for this evening. And
Good night,
I will
Joni. It was
catch you all
nice
next
to
week.
meet you. Good night,
Joni, thank you
Peter.
for attending.
Everybody.
Thank you, Peter. Good night, everyone.